food to chew him out, and he nods, smiled tight. Her face registers that he hasn't really answered. "Think you're up for another visitor?" Almost as soon as Colin nods, Jay walks in, stands at the foot of the bed, and looks at Colin like he's seen a ghost. "You scared the crap out of me, Col. I didn't think you were going to make it." "Thanks for pulling me out." "Lucy pulled you out," he said, and Colin feels his eyes go wide. Lucy? The girl who can barely handle his kiss pulled his unconscious body from a lake? Jay's already nodding, a grin pulling at the edge of his mouth as if they're both imagining Lucy opening that beer bottle with her teeth. "Right? It was awesome. I basically punched the hell out of your chest to get you breathing." His eyes narrow, and Colin can see the traces of another smile. It's a struggle for Jay to stay serious for long, but for Dot's sake, he works to keep it somber. Colin knows Dot is probably putting the pieces together, but he can't think about that right now. She's unable to look at either of them, her wide eyes trained on the shape of Colin's leg under the pile of blankets. "That explains the bruises on my sternum," Colin says. "Really?" Jay sounds kind of impressed. Colin pulls open the top of his hospital gown to show him the blue fist marks blooming across his chest. Jay laughs and turns it into a cough when Dot shoots him a sharp look. There are some Dot moods even Jay's charm can't penetrate, and one of those is protective Dot. "Hey, do you know where Lucy is?" Jay's eyes slide to Dot again, probably sensing the tense set to her shoulders, and then back to Colin before mouthing the word, "Here." She stayed. When the moon fills the window and spills across the floor, Colin actually starts to feel awake. Dot has left, and the far side of the room is empty but for the vaguely geometric shadows of medical equipment. Everything around him looks oddly plain. Even the shadows here lack the dimension of those hovering alongside the strange trail. Maggie pads into the room for another check of his vitals. "Feeling okay?" He shrugs and gives her a pain score when she points to the faces on the wall. "It's about a 6. She pulls a packet of pills from her pocket and offers a cup with water. "Will she try to come back?" He looks up at her. Maggie's eyes are shadowed in the dark room, and she's making a note on his chart, but he knows she's not asking about Dot. "Probably. Why wouldn't you let her in?" She sighs and straightens the blankets over his legs. "I'll tell you the same thing I told her. Nothing good can come of this." "How do you know what she is?" "How do you?" "She told me," he says. "But she didn't have to tell you. You just knew." Maggie nods and meets his eyes. "She was killed just after I started here. I never knew her, but her face was plastered all over the news." She pauses, studying him as her eyes fill with pain. "But that's not what you're asking, is it?" "Yes, I've seen her kind before around here." Colin swallows, but the question he wants to ask isn't forming quickly enough. "Tell me," Maggie says, "when she told you she was dead, did you decide it didn't matter how strange she was? Didn't matter that when you kiss her she doesn't feel like any other girl?" She leans closer, resting her hand on the side of the bed. "Did she feel like she was put back on this planet, just for you?" It feels too intimate, what she's saying. It feels like she's looking underneath his skin. And he hates the echo of her words. "You're going to break that boy's heart, or worse." He tugs the blankets up around his shoulders. "Well," Maggie sighs, picking up her clipboard and tucking it under her arm. "I've been in your shoes, Colin. That girl needs something, and nothing's going to stop her from taking it. You think about that." She turns to leave, stopping in front of the door. And maybe she was put here just for you? You'll give and give until you hollow yourself out. But when that girl disappears without warning, without a trace, you ask yourself how long she can be gone before you break. The shift change at work is silent outside his door, and the only indication that time has passed is the appearance of an unfamiliar gray-haired nurse materializing at his side and recording his vitals. She runs her hand along the IV tubing, checking for kinks. I'm Linda. I do hospice in town and came in to give Maggie a break. How's your pain? Better. Around a 3. Colin stretches, reaching to push the button at the side of the bed that helps him sit up. That your girlfriend in the hallway? The brunette? Tall as a tree but skinny? Colin's monitor picks up, and the nurse glances at it. Brunette. Yes, he says. Can I see her? She smiles over the top of her clipboard. I was told you were to rest. He stares at her, trying as hard as he can to silently communicate that she should let Lucy in, that he won't tell anyone. She starts to leave, and then pauses at the door, looking back over her shoulder. 30 minutes. 30, he repeats in a burst. I promise. Thank you. Pale yellow light bleeds into the room as she slips out, and he counts to 83 before the door opens again, and Lucy steps in. Colin? She whispers. He scoots over to make room for her on the bed. I'm awake. The air stirs as she moves next to him, and the mattress dips surprisingly under her added weight. They sit side by side, stiff and silent. Colin has no idea where to start asking about the world he saw, what he felt, whether any of it was real. Are you okay? She asks finally. I think so. Are you? She nods. Do you want to talk about what happened? Was it real? She studies him, but doesn't seem to need him to explain more. I think so. Colin can feel his fingers grow clammy. It would be so much easier to explain if it happened only in his mind. The world didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. It was bright and like there were more layers to everything. I know that doesn't make sense, but I'd never seen color like that. And you... He glances up to her quickly. I felt you, Luce. I mean, we were the same. The memories fill his thoughts slowly, slithering in. Icicles hanging from silvery branches, leaves greener than a December day has ever seen, a shimmering crystal blue sky wrapping through it all. It's a world worthy of a dream. Her eyes darken, mocha swirling into burgundy. What was it like to go in? She asks hesitantly. Only a few fragments before he fell in are clear. I noticed a puddle of water on the ice right before it cracked, he says, but it was already too late. How is any of it possible, Lucy? Did I die? She reaches for his hand, and it surprises him how strong she feels. I don't know. She doesn't say anything else, and he leans back, closing his eyes. Colin feels tired and sore, but mostly he feels like he does after a really long ride with a couple hard falls. The idea of falling in a frozen lake used to seem so extreme. It makes him wonder why he's not in rougher shape. They don't talk about what it was like to finally feel each other for the first time. He doesn't tell her about Maggie's warning, and he doesn't tell her that even when he realized what was happening, it never occurred to him to worry he might die. He certainly doesn't tell her how badly he wants to go back under.
Chapter 20. Her. Colin is held in the infirmary the next day, and Lucy walks back through campus, feeling increasingly untethered with each passing step. Warnings haunt her. 2 people now have seen Lucy and reacted as if she were anything but good. They always take someone with them. Try not to, Lucy. Go take your haunting somewhere else. The words, delivered with such certainty, taste all wrong in Lucy's thoughts. Where would she take Colin even if she could? How could she possibly take her haunting somewhere else when she can't even manage to pass through the school's iron gates? She walks away from the buildings, down the long gravel road leading toward the majestic stone buildings. Even out of her sight, they feel just as imposing. Her anchor is this school, these grounds, and most of all, that boy lying bruised and broken in the infirmary. Lucy presses her hand to the cold iron gates and then leans forward, resting her forehead there too. Objectively, it's cold. The cold takes over every inch of her skin, and yet it's completely without discomfort. No sensation in the world registers above the memory of feeling Colin the day before. Warm skin, the wet of his lips, and the ache for more in every one of his sounds. Being with Colin like that was how she always hoped it would feel. Being with him in his human body and her ghost one felt like trying to mix fire and ice. It's about more than feeling him, though. It's about the depth of her wanting. She wants him. There's a small, hollow void, even when she's right beside him, and it's because they truly know nothing. Not why she's there, how long she'll be back, or even why she disappeared 2 weeks ago. How much time do they have together? Weeks? Months? A year? Is she here only to be near him and enjoy him, or is she here to make up for some sin in her human life? Footsteps crunch on the gravel on the other side of the gate, and Lucy opens her eyes, taking a surprised step backward when she sees Maggie heading into work. "Trying to leave?" Maggie asks, eyes narrowed. Lucy's ingrained manners battle with her frustration. She remembers the way the world seemed to snap like a rubber band when she'd tried to walk through the gate, and how she ended up right back where she'd started. "I'm guessing you know I can't." Maggie's laugh comes out sharp. "I was hoping it would be different for you." She studies Lucy for a beat. "What are you doing out here, girl?" "I'm thinking," Lucy answers, defensive. "I'm out for a walk. I'm worried for Colin, and I'm confused." "I'm sure you are. Can't find it in me to be sympathetic, though." Lucy feels a bit like an amnesia victim who has woken to discover she's committed some great secret crime. She'd happily avoid being horrible if only someone would tell her how. "Why weren't you surprised to see me? Everyone else who works here, I mean those who even bother to really look at me, act like I'm something to fear. You basically shooed me out with a broom." "I suppose fear is how most people react to seeing a ghost." Maggie's answer is so matter-of-fact that Lucy feels her exasperation boil up inside, but Maggie holds up a hand to keep her from responding. "I was new here when you died. It wasn't that long ago, girl. Dot, Joe, all of them knew you as a student and still aren't sure if they believe you're the same girl. I tried to tell them the first time that ghosts come back to this place, but until you, no one seemed to want to believe me." "What ghost was here before?" "No way," Maggie says, shaking her head. "I'm not going down that road with you." Lucy watches her, seeing a trace of vulnerability beneath the stern surface. "Then at least tell me why we come back." This time Maggie laughs. "I suspect you're here for that boy. He's like a magnet for you." "Why is that a bad thing?" Narrowing her eyes, Maggie says, "Don't know exactly why it's him you need. I wish I did, Lucy, but you think long and hard about how you felt when you saw Colin lying in the hospital bed. Were you relieved he was safe, or disappointed you didn't kill him?" "It's too much. The nurse has crossed a line, and no matter how much Lucy wants to understand, horror and rage course through her so quickly that she turns, walking toward campus without another word. She doesn't look back to see, but she's almost certain she hears the rattling of the gate behind her. Kill him? How could Maggie even suggest it? Lucy is the one who pulled Colin from the water, who ran to find help. Maggie herself admitted that she didn't know everything, but even knowing something is a lot farther along than where Lucy is. She only knows that she's falling for Colin and will do anything to not disappear again. Obviously, there have been others who've come back. Jay talked about the walkers. Maggie clearly has stories of her own, and Lucy remembers something Ms. Baldwin said, that people don't look, that most people don't need to see. Could it be that simple? Lucy spent countless hours watching the students around her, looking for a memory or something familiar. But maybe she's looking for the wrong thing. Maybe it's not a thing she should be watching for, but a who. Without a destination in mind, she continues on, turning this way and that, moving from sidewalk to snow-covered lawn to gravel path and then sidewalk again, following nothing but the instinctual map that seems to be unfolding in her mind. She finds herself beside the statue, running her fingertips down the smooth, extended arm of Saint Hosanna. The marble hums beneath her fingers, and Lucy curls her grip more firmly around it, feeling it warm. Somehow she knows there's life there, of one form or another, even if it's life in the way she is. If Lucy can return and form a makeshift body out of the elements, why can't the statue possess a spirit just the same? Feet crunch through the snow, and she turns, catching Jay as he almost passes her by without noticing. Jay. He stops, looks over at her vacantly before blinking into awareness.
Hey, rocker chick.
He walks to her, eyeing the statue skeptically before sitting beside her. Empty seconds tick by before either of them speaks. Finally, Jay asks,
How was he when you left?
He seemed fine, Lucy says, and then reaches up, tucking her hair behind her ears. I can't stop thinking about how he could have died. Jay is already shaking his head.
You don't know Colin like I do. Colin is the guy who never questions whether he can or should do something. He just does it. The stuff you saw him doing at the lake was nothing. Last summer, we went skydiving with my dad, and Colin pulled his chute at the last minute and landed easier than any of us. As crazy as it sounds, Colin doesn't know what dying even means.
Lucy curls her hands into fists, wanting to ask Jay about every single time Colin has dared to put his life in danger. But she suspects they would be here talking for hours.
He's a good guy,
Jay says, turning his face up into the biting wind. Lucy swears she can feel blood pounding through her veins just thinking about him. He seems like the best guy. Smiling, Jay looks over at her.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant.
He pulls his jacket collar up, wincing at the cold.
What are you doing out here?
She shrugs, shying away from answering and lying to Jay. Waiting for someone. He stands, shoving his hands deep into his pockets and tilting his head toward the dorm.
Clearly you're a badass, but I'm freezing. I'm going to head back to the room.
He frowns a little, thoughtfully.
Do you live on campus?
Lucy nods, non-committal. I'll let you know if I hear anything about Colin.
Same.
She watches him walk away, shoulders up and head down, his short strides like tiny stabs aimed at the icy walkways. Lucy feels like there should be more there with Jay, some acknowledgement of the miracle of what happened or reliving of the trauma, but he's so matter-of-fact about it all. She can tell it's cold out from the way students hunch over into their middles, grip their bags, lean into each other. At the entrance to every building, they rush in toward the warmth of the halls, but Lucy stands out in the wind, fascinated with how it no longer seems to fight her. Instead, she closes her eyes and presses back, determined to stay earthbound, determined not to disappear or take Colin anywhere, determined to find another like her. Darkness is threatening, and it's started to snow when Lucy looks past the trees and sees two figures pressed into the growing shadows of Ethan Hall. The boys huddle over something held between them. One laughs, and the other reaches up to touch his shoulder. Lucy freezes. The way the boy touches his friend is familiar. It's exactly the way Colin touches her, gently, preceded by a slow approach, as if he's afraid to startle her with the contact. Narrowing her eyes, she takes in their features. The careful one is tall and broad, athletic in build. His hair blows across a tanned forehead, skin that sees sun every month of the year. Even from this distance, She can see that the other boy, the one he touched, has smooth, unblemished skin that resembles porcelain in its clarity. Like Lucy, he lacks the small scars and imperfections that are the hallmarks of the living. He's like her. Her mind turns wild at the realization, reaching for the opportunity to understand. She pushes herself forward, walking to them in only a few strides, calling out, "Excuse me." When they look up, terrified, and step apart immediately, Lucy realizes her mistake. They are lovers, hiding in the shadows for the privacy of an intimate conversation. Their silence is heavy with the panic of being discovered, and the living boy presses his hands to his face. But the ghost stares at Lucy, eyes slowly widening. Stepping away from the wall, he moves toward her, wearing a smile. She stares, unable to look away. He looks completely inhuman, unreal, but she knows she's never noticed him before. "I didn't," she stammers, holding up a shaky hand. "I'm Henry Moss." He reaches forward and takes her hand and stills it in his grip. "You okay there?" His fingers are warm and feel like smooth glass. Releasing them, Lucy stumbles back a few steps before turning and falling back at the feet of her favorite statue. Her mind reels, wondering how she didn't think to look before, that there could be another like her here now. After a pause, the boys follow to sit on either side of her, and Lucy can feel them exchanging a look over the top of her head, though she can't begin to imagine what they're thinking given the whirlwind of her own thoughts. For a second, she wonders if they can see the surface of her skin rippling with the impact of this discovery. "This has been the most insane 24 hours of my life," she says, laughing. "Let's start with your name," Henry says, bumping his shoulder gently against hers. "Lucy." She looks over at him, searching his face for any sign of life, and can't see it. There's no pulse in his throat, no freckles, no scars, nothing but perfection. He simply looks like he's been drawn here. "You are like me, aren't you?" Henry smiles so widely that his bright blue eyes crinkle at the corners. "I think so." "Are there others like us here at St. Hosanna's?" She hesitates. "Walkers?" Shaking his head, he murmurs, "I haven't seen any lately. Never really used that word to describe myself before." "Lately? How long have you been here?" She wants to apologize for her rapid-fire questions, but Henry seems entirely unsurprised by her hunger to know these things. She wonders if it's possible that she's seen Henry 100 times in the past few months without having noticed. "I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I've been here forever. I only really remember being here for the past year and a half." "But you've heard of the Walkers." "I've heard stories, sure," he says, shrugging. "It's why students are told not to go down to the lake, why this place has such a creepy reputation, and Halloween is this huge deal." He presses a hand to his chest, giving her an indulgent smile. "I just assumed we were misunderstood." Lucy allows a small smile to escape before she remembers her biggest fear, and the question comes bubbling up abruptly. "Have you ever vanished?" He winces sympathetically. "Happened to me a couple of times when I first got here. That was the scariest, but it hasn't happened again for a while now." He looks to the boy beside him, confirming, "Maybe a year, Alex?" "At least a year," Alex agrees. "Really?" she asks, curiosity and vibrant hope making her voice come out thick. Shrugging, Henry says, "I assumed it was kind of an adjustment thing." Relief floods her so rapidly that for a pulse she feels unsteady. Her gaze drifts back to Alex. There's something oddly fascinating about the living boy. Henry doesn't look quite human to her, but there's something strange about Alex, too. She feels an eerie pull toward him. It's different from Colin, of course, but the air around Alex isn't empty like it is around the other students. Instead, it has almost a hypnotic hum to it. His skin is sun-kissed, but now that she's closer, she sees the circles beneath his eyes. And there's something underneath, an exhaustion in the way he holds himself, bruising that pushes up beneath his skin, stiffness in his movements. It's almost like Lucy can see through him to a part that lies deep inside, draining him. "Lucy, where is your protected?" Henry asks. Lucy jerks herself back to the conversation. His eyes move over her face as she tries to understand his question. "Am I protected?" He grins. "Sorry, it's how I think of Alex. I mean, where's the person you came back for?" "You mean Colin?" Laughing, he straightens and wipes his hand on his jeans. "I need to start at the beginning with you, don't I?" She presses her hands to her cheeks in what she knows to be a reflexive movement, a leftover from the long-forgotten days when she would have blushed. "I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time processing some of this. I knew there had been others at one point or another. I just didn't think I would meet any." "Well, partly that's because you're here for Colin. I don't think it's natural for guardians to think that much about anyone other than our protected. But I suspect we're all over. We're the kids no one ever remembers. We're the ones no one misses at the reunion. Even I haven't noticed you before." Because he wasn't looking, she thinks. Alex and Henry continue to watch her with the same small and patient smiles while his words hover in the air. She laughs briefly, a soft exhale. "You think we're guardians?" "I do," Henry says, "and there's no one here to tell me I'm wrong. I didn't know anything when I got here. I walked around aimless. But when I found Alex, being near him didn't just feel right. It felt critical. As in, when I left him alone, I felt I was doing something wrong." "Yes," Lucy whispers, tingling down to her fingertips. "I don't know why he needs me, if it's because he was sick and I make him healthy or something else. But in the years since I found him, I feel like I finally have purpose. And lately, I feel stronger every day. Just look at him. He looks so much better, too. Something in his eyes. I know I'm doing what I'm here to do." Lucy looks to Alex again. Is that what she sees? His illness? She wonders if Henry sees it, too. When she looks at Alex, she doesn't feel quite as hopeful about his condition. She also doesn't see anything different about his eyes. They're blue in the same way that hers are brown, except to Colin. "You're sick?" she asks. "Acute lymphocytic leukemia," he says matter-of-factly. "Henry found me the week I was diagnosed." He glances at Henry before adding, "I'm in remission now." "I'm so glad," Lucy says. "But who? Who sent us back? Why us? Why Colin and Alex?" Henry stills her with a hand on her knee. "You're wasting your time asking questions. I asked them every day for a year, and trust me, no one will drift down from the clouds and give you the welcome pamphlet." Lucy envies Henry's certainty, and maybe the only way she'll get it is with more time. The thought is both a relief and mildly depressing. "How much do you remember about your life before?" "Not much," Henry admits. "I know my name. I know I loved sports because I have brief memories of playing or watching. But other than a flash here and there, a face, a feeling, it's pretty blank. Nothing around here looks familiar." Lucy remembers waking on the trail and the instinctive way she knew where to find someone. "So you weren't a student here?" "I don't think so, no. We've gone through the yearbooks," Alex offers. "Nothing." "Huh." Lucy pulls at her lip, thinking. "What's huh?" Henry asks, leaning forward to catch her gaze. "I was a St. Ozana's student. I died here. According to an article Colin found, I was killed at the lake. That's where I woke up. I figured that we had this connection, which explained why I was here for him." "Oh, wow," Henry says. "I'm so sorry, Lucy." "But then what is the connection? Why are we both here, and why can't we leave?" Henry and Alex look at each other, each of them shaking their heads. It doesn't add up. Lucy pulls her sleeves over her hands. She's not cold, exactly, but a strange creeping sensation spreads up her arms. "How are you so sure about the guardian thing? Don't you ever worry you're bad?" Henry's roaring laugh is so surprising, Lucy actually scoots back when it bursts from him. "You think you'd come back to hurt him? Can you even imagine?" She can't. She shakes her head, exhaling a slow, anxious breath as she aches to let go of Maggie's horrible suggestion. "But you're here and Alex is still sick." Before Henry can protest, she adds, "And yesterday, Colin fell into a frozen lake and almost died. It's hard to feel like it's a coincidence that it was the first time I went along with him. I sort of feel like a bad omen." Henry's expression straightens. First, Alex might have been sick, but he's getting better. And that kid who fell in the lake is your protected? She nods. Yeah, he fell in and... She starts to tell them about the trail, about being able to touch Colin as if they were made of the same thing, but for some reason she stops. It feels too complicit somehow, as if the accident benefited her too greatly. And I thought he was going to die, she says instead. But did he? Henry asks, smiling a secret smile that makes Lucy uneasy, as if the location of the missing puzzle piece is obvious to everyone but her. Well, no, but he could have. I've heard of him, Alex says. We don't hang out with the same group, but he's known to be pretty crazy. Hasn't he broken, practically every bone in his body? He laughs. No wonder he has you. Well, yes, but... Lucy, stop, Alex says gently. His hand barely hovers over her arm, a practiced touch. Colin's here. He's safe. Has it occurred to you that maybe you're the reason he didn't die? Chapter 21. Her. This time, when Lucy walks back across campus, she barely registers that the howling wind no longer throws her across the path. Long strands of her hair whip around her face, and she pulls it back absently, lost in Alex and Henry's words. Guardian. He almost died. But did he? She doesn't think Colin has any idea how big a story this has been around school, and when Mr. Velasquez's car pulls up in front of the dorm, it seems like the entire student body is camped outside. Colin looks pale and weak when he climbs out and walks to the front door, the headmaster pushing back the surge of whispering bodies to create a path forward. Lucy backs away from where she's standing near the pond and sits on a bench where she first told Colin she died. She wishes she had even one drop of Henry's certainty, because if she chooses not to believe him, then she's every bit as lost as she was before. Lucy's grateful for the short days of winter. Sunset is at 6:08, and at 6:30 Colin is opening the dormitory door to silently let her in. Did you eat? She asks once they're in his room, door closed, music playing in the background. Jay has come in and left again, letting Lucy and Colin reconnect in relative peace. He nods, studying her as he sometimes does, as if he can unlock her secrets with the pressure of his attention. Dot brought me about 5 meals. Only now does it occur to Lucy that Colin could be sick, like Alex, that maybe that's what they have in common and why each of them has attracted a ghost. But though Colin looks and feels different to her than other people, she doesn't see the same underlying exhaustion she saw in Alex. There's no illness draining the life from him right before her eyes. If anything, even in his weakened state, Colin seems more resilient. The air around him pulses with life. Are you tired? She asks, fidgeting. No, I feel like I've slept the last 2 days away. He sits down on the edge of his mattress, pulling the heavy brown comforter up and over his shoulders. And I can't stop thinking about the lake. I keep seeing you falling through, and then on the trail... She tries to temper the longing in her voice, but her skin hums with the memory of what came after. He blinks away and looks out the window. Fat snowflakes gather on his windowsill. If I didn't die, but I could touch you, then you must be somewhere in between too. I have no idea. She moves closer but keeps some space between them when he shivers slightly. I don't think I'm the only one like me at St. Ozana's. Colin turns to look at her, his face shadowed in the dark room. Bluish marks sweep heavily under his eyes, but she can see interest bloom across his expression. His lips curl into a half smile. She tells him about looking for others and finally finding Henry and Alex. They're like us. Henry died too and is back. Colin's brow furrows and 100 reactions cross his features before he says simply, And the other guy, Alex, is me in this scenario? Yeah, they're together. Alex Broderick, tall blonde kid? Colin asks, and Lucy nods. He's gay? Do you know him? She asks. Well, I don't know him, but I've seen him around. He used to play lacrosse and stuff before he got sick. Cancer, I think. Leukemia. I guess that's when he found Henry, right after he was diagnosed. Colin shifts under the blankets, eyes growing heavy. So I've wondered, if I'm a ghost, then how do I move things, wear clothes, touch you? But if I'm mostly solid, how do I know I'm not some form of demon instead? Who sent me here? Colin nods beside her. She tells him about how long Henry has been here, about how with Alex being sick, Henry is sure that he was sent back for him. I've always felt like my heart was taken from my body, but it somehow ended up in you. I think Henry kind of feels the same way, like he's keeping Alex safe.
I'm glad,
he says, leaning to kiss her cheek.
I've always felt safe with you. I wonder if ghosts like you are everywhere, protecting people.
You're not surprised?
Why would I be?
He mumbles, already drifting off. Lucy turns and looks out the window, for the first time realizing that she is the only one who is surprised by any of this. In the middle of the night, Colin pushes the heating pads off his chest and legs and climbs out of bed. He wraps himself in about 4 sweaters, twitching with constant shivering. His desk chair creaks as he sits down and begins typing. It's 2:14 in the morning. What are you doing?
Looking stuff up.
He mumbles. What stuff?
Spirit stuff. Dying.
Do you want to talk about it? He scratches the back of his neck and throws her an apologetic glance over his shoulder.
Not yet. Sorry.
She lies back to stare at his ceiling, at the tiny solar system she likes to imagine Colin meticulously sticking in place everywhere he's lived. You okay? He grunts in affirmation, and she rolls over, wishing he would come closer. She's had a taste of what he must have felt when she was gone, and here in the dark, with him so far away, she feels a strange itch to talk some more about what he felt on the trail and what he thinks happened. It feels like a tight spring has been lodged in her chest, uncoiling slowly upward.
Do you know how many people have had near-death experiences?
He asks, oblivious to her anxiety. How many?
Thousands. More than thousands. Most of the stuff written about it is religious, but not all. Some people think that near-death experiences are a form of hallucination. But since I know you felt everything too, we know I wasn't hallucinating.
She rolls back over, forcing a lighter tone. Are you cruising around neardeath.org?
No,
he says without humor.
Seriously, Luce. So many people have almost died, or actually died, and seen things or experienced things like I did, and these people are fine. There's even a journal of near-death studies. There's a near-death experience research organization. Like science.
Pseudoscience.
Lucy, that makes you pseudoscience.
I'm not near dead, Colin. I'm dead. He ignores her, and she listens to the sound of his fingers on the keyboard. They don't seem to be cooperating, and he swears repeatedly under his breath.
You're neither dead nor alive. He counters. You've been sent back. Or maybe your mind has separated from your original body and has figured out a way to come back as my guardian. And I can be like you. We know that now.
Not easily, she says, growing strangely full of excited energy. She stands, feeling like she wants to take off running. And probably not again.
I felt you, Luce. You felt me too, and not in a maddening too much too little way.
His tone makes the vibrations inside her grow. There's a steely determination there she hasn't heard before.
Are you telling me you didn't like it?
She's silent, unable to speak past the strange humming in her chest. She did feel him, and he felt better than anything.
This one guy had the same thing happen, he continues. Fell in a lake, hypothermia, saw the world in a way he'd never seen it before. The whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah, and he's on this message board saying he did it again because he wanted to know that what he saw was real.
You need to recover, she says. You're not seriously thinking about this as a good thing, are you? The answering silence fills the room like rushing water. She walks closer and leans over him, reading the message board posts over his shoulder. There are thousands of entries. He follows a link and creates a username and password. She bends and kisses his jaw, his neck, hoping to distract him, but she can feel him grow tense under her touch. You need to sleep.
In a minute. I want to join this site.
I think this goes against Guardian protocol. She tries to keep her voice light, but the words come out stiff and formal. She doesn't want to police Colin's activity. Even more, she doesn't understand this strange hyperactivity that has overtaken her. "This website creeps me out," she says instead. He laughs at this, at the ghost girl being afraid of ghosts.
This one guy sees hypothermia almost like an extreme sport. Because of the way your cellular activity slows, brain death is the very last thing. This guy on here, Cold Sport, thinks it can be done in a way that challenges the system, like biking up a big hill or running a marathon.
He's serious. She looks at the forum he's logged into. There are 3 usernames that take up most of the posts. 3 crazy people out there preaching to their own tiny, crazy choir. She slips her hands inside his sweaters, along his skin. "Colin, stop." His skin is fever hot, and he shivers beneath her palms. Standing, he reluctantly follows her back to his bed, but her mind is reeling. When he finally falls asleep, she slips over to his desk, hovers on his chair, and focuses intently on pressing each key on his keyboard to enter her search. She finds hundreds of stories, but shuts down the computer when she registers that none of them sound like what happened at the lake.
Chapter 22. Him. The silence is like a thick curtain between them. Colin washes dishes as best he can and hands them, through the invisible film of discomfort, to Dot, who dries and puts them away. "You're awfully quiet," he says, digging his hands into the warm, sudsy water. They're better today, fingers less stiff, his grip steadier. "So are you," she shoots back. He drops the baking sheet he was scrubbing and turns to look at her. "Christ, Dot, just say whatever it is you're thinking." "Are you going to tell me about this, Lucy?" Colin groans, turning away and looking out the window. He's been expecting this ever since Dot heard the name Lucy at the hospital. Dot remembers Lucy's murder as clearly as if it happened yesterday, but as far as he knows, Dot's never seen him with her. For all she knows, it's just another girl. "She's a girl in my class," he says, returning to the dishes. "I've seen her, you know. She looks a lot like a girl named Lucy who went here years ago. In fact," Dot says, stepping closer, "she looks a lot like the dead girl you asked about a few weeks back." Colin stares at his hands in the water. They're shaking now, but it has nothing to do with having gone into the lake. "I told you. I always heard the stories," Dot whispers, her voice trembling. "Different people insisting they'd seen a girl at the lake. The man in uniform sitting on a bench, or a man walking around campus, sweeping the walkway. Maggie swore up and down for years that this place was haunted. But Lucy, being such a part of your world..." Colin turns to her, eyes pleading. "Dot, do you remember when you told me and Jay that there are things we don't understand in this world?" Dot nods, eyes wide. "And do you remember when you promised me I wasn't crazy? Do you believe what you told me?" She laughs, reaching up to put a soft hand on his cheek. "I do. So can you trust me?" Shaking her head the tiniest bit, she whispers, "I don't know. It just doesn't feel right." "It doesn't feel right because you don't understand it, not because it's wrong," he says. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I know what I want." Looking back and forth between her eyes, Colin can see that Dot is going to give him more leash than she's ever given him before. Her eyes fill with tears, and she offers him a half-smile. "Just feels like I never see you anymore." Colin shifts where he stands, his eyes boring into the soapy water. Been busier than normal. School. Friends, he says, swallowing down the guilt that blooms in his chest. The silence stretches on before Dot sets her towel aside, reaching over to place her hand on his forearm. "Promise me you won't do anything dangerous," When he nods, Colin realizes he's made a promise he has no intention of keeping. Colin is accustomed to being the center of attention. He's competed in bike races and trials competitions practically since he could walk. He's crazy tall, he's never been shy, and when his parents died, no one gave him a minute alone for years. But the attention he's getting today is all wrong. 2 news vans are parked on campus, and the reporters camped inside try to ask him questions before Joe calls security. His classmates are hysterical. Some are insisting it was the ghost of the lake that made him fall in. Others eye him like he's some kind of mythical creature. Everyone wants to touch him. Teachers seem shaken, and there's a mandatory assembly on winter safety in the gym. He feels the pressure of every pair of eyes watching to make sure he's okay, that his arms work, his gait is steady, that he's making sense. The words tragedy, close call, and fences are being thrown around. Here's the thing, it wasn't a tragedy. It wasn't a close call. If they build a fence around that lake, he'll tear the motherfucker down. He wants to go back. He wants to know that what he saw was real, that the way Lucy felt wasn't his imagination. The minutes with Lucy in that world felt better than any crazy trick, more visceral than anything else happening around him. His body might have been dying, but he felt alive, really alive. He knows that should scare him, but it doesn't. "Oh, my God! Colin!" A voice screeches behind him, and reflexively he ducks his head, anticipating the set of claws that will run up his neck and into his hair. Amanda grips his head and digs in her nails as she pulls him into a hug. "I heard you died for like an hour." "I didn't die. I have been freaking out, Colin. Freaking out." "Sorry," he says, extracting himself from her clutches. Of course, Lucy chooses this exact moment to drift down the hall and settle beside him. She glances at Colin, then at Amanda, but where he expects raised eyebrows, he gets only an amused smirk. "Hey," she says. "Hey." He smiles at her, eyes lingering on her lips until she smiles outright. That's better. Amanda ignores Lucy. "Shelby called me last night and told me what happened, and oh my God, I totally flipped out. Like, what if you had died? What if you had died, Colin? We would have been completely Amanda, have you met Lucy?" He interrupts, hoping she comes up for air. He's embarrassed both for Amanda's lack of manners and the past Colin who actually had sex with this girl. Amanda regards Lucy as if she's never seen her before. "Hey," she says, uninterested, before turning back to Colin. "Did it hurt? Did you get all hot and undress?" He lifts an eyebrow in the way that Lucy likes and feels her slide closer. "I didn't undress," he says. Amanda has the gall to look disappointed. "Oh, good. I hear a lot of people do that when they're hyperthermic." "Hypo," he mutters. "I was getting there," Lucy says, grinning up at him. "Just didn't have enough time." Colin feigns shock, pressing his fingertips to his rounded lips. Out of the corner of his eye, he can see Amanda working up to something. She fills with an inhale, pulling together irritation and outrage, and trying to coat it in indifference. "You were there?" Lucy nods mildly at Amanda and stretches to kiss his jaw. "See you later." He waves, cursing Lucy under his breath for leaving him alone with his ex-girlfriend, though we can't exactly blame her for not wanting to stay. With perfect timing, Amanda's roommate approaches, wearing a sympathetic smile. "Hey, Colin," she says. "How are you?" "I'm fine," he answers for the 1,000th time today, but this time he doesn't mind as much. He's always liked Liz. He owes her big time for the damage control she managed after his breakup with Amanda. "How are you?" "Good," she says simply. And right when Colin expects her to move on, she adds, "I had a cousin who fell through the ice. Up in Newfoundland." He nods, disappointed and already disengaged. He's heard a variation of this story about half as many times today as he's answered the obligatory, "How are you?" What follows will be the predictable, "You're lucky you made it out alive." He was never the same again. She lost her left thumb, had permanent nerve damage in her face. But he should have known Liz would break the mold. "He was unconscious on the ice for hours, and lived." "What?" Amanda, forgotten, he steps closer to Liz, surprising her so much she steps back into the wall. "He fell in and managed to climb out, but it was 4 hours before he was found with no detectable pulse. At least, that's what they guessed." "And he's a vegetable?" "No, that's the weirdest part," she says, smiling in a strange way that makes his skin hum. "He's totally fine." By the end of the day, Colin is practically vibrating to talk to Lucy. It's only when he sees her headed toward him and away from a mass of students walking to the trail, bundled up in holiday-themed scarves and hats, that he remembers tonight is the winter social. "Where is everyone going?" Lucy asks once she reaches him, turning to watch the migration. "The upperclassmen have this evil thing called winter social every year before the holiday. Everyone except us townies gets nostalgic and weepy over being separated for 2 whole weeks. The seniors decorate the overlook above the lake and—" "Our lake?" He looks down at her and smiles at the possessive bite to her voice. "Yeah, but don't worry. They don't venture down to the lake itself. Nobody does," he adds, hoping she hears the same in his. "They decorate the area on the hill above it and play horrible pop music, and everyone makes out with everyone else, and then people start fighting because they've snuck in alcohol, so it turns into a giant drama." Lucy grins. "Sounds fun." "It's a social at a boarding school, so basically you hang out with the same people just half a mile away from where you usually hang out." Ignoring him, she says, "And it's about time you took me on a date." "Trust me, Lucy, it's not your thing." "How would you know?" Her grin turns seductive. "Being near the lake and kissing you sounds like my thing." He finds himself unable to argue with that reasoning. A long path of battery-operated lights line the way to the overlook, and thousands more hang from every possible tree branch, illuminating the dozens of bodies that wave in swarms to the music, blaring from 4 speakers flanking the area. The overlook is outlined with propped-up wreaths of holly, and everything in the surrounding area looks icy blue in the moonlight. It's hard to believe how close he is to where it happened, and Colin finds himself looking off into the distance, down the hill to the other side of the lake, where the ice opens up to the blackness below. There's no way he'll be able to see it from here, but he imagines the jagged hole surrounded by warning tape, the signs telling everyone to stay away. He wonders what it says about him that he's not afraid, and rather than fear or dread at the memory of being plunged into the darkness, he feels longing and anticipation, the tease of adrenaline trickling through his veins. Jay walks up beside them and stretches. "The lake looks so much smaller from up here." It feels like the world around them falls silent for a beat, before Jay coughs, breaking the tension. Colin turns his attention back to the other students. "Kiss me, Lucy. We're under the mistletoe." Jay makes exaggerated smooching sounds at her, pointing over his head to one of the many branches laden with plastic mistletoe. Lucy pretends to stretch to kiss Jay's face, but then runs away, feigning disgust. Colin watches, fascinated, as Jay chases her off down a small hill and she ducks behind a tree, laughing and shrieking when he tries to touch her. Colin has no idea how Jay would react if he felt Lucy's skin against his, and even more, he has no idea how she would react if he managed to actually grab her. But for the moment, she doesn't seem concerned about it. It's the first time Colin has ever seen Lucy act her age. "Having fun?" he says when she returns. He can't be imagining the pink flush to her cheeks, or the way she seems almost breathless with happiness. He can't be imagining how substantial she feels when she presses against him, as if a solid girl is forming beneath the fog of her skin. "The most. I have yet to see any flasks, kissing, or drama, though." Colin watches as Lucy bends to tie a loose shoelace on her boots. The boots are black, but tonight, under the lights and snow, they look iridescent. He wonders if everything becomes somewhat unearthly as soon as she puts it on. "Ready to dance?" she asks. "Not even a little." He follows her anyway. As Lucy dances, Colin wonders how she doesn't stick out like a lit flare among the other, less graceful students. Her hands move rhythmically over her head. Her feet glide, almost disconnected from the earth. She's weightless as she playfully dances circles around him, lighting up with laughter. He's never seen her like this, and it makes it easier for him to resist the pull he feels down the hill, toward the lake. And then her smile fades for a beat, and her eyes move past him to the edge of the overlook, the tipping point, sloping downhill. The lake feels like a throbbing beacon in the blackness. Her eyes turn the same warm amber they do when they lie side by side, and he can think about nothing but how badly he wants to kiss her. As he stares, she blinks up to him, caught. "I was remembering what it was like," she says, guilt draining her eyes to a soft gray, adding, "I'm so glad you're okay." For whatever reason, her voice sounds fainter when she says this last part, and he knows exactly why. If she feels what he feels, she wants to walk downhill, into the shadows, if only to just look at the sharp cracks and cold, silent water beneath.
Chapter 23. Her. She's straddling his waist, buttoning and unbuttoning the first half of his shirt over and over, fascinated with how much concentration it takes. She's seen him do this with one hand in only a few seconds. But after he fell in the lake, it took him a week to be able to button his shirt easily. She watches her fingers move along his chest and down across the toned lines of his stomach. Her flesh flickers between ivory and peachy opaque. She has no scars, no freckles, no bruises. Aside from the way her skin seems to glow and dim, there's nothing that differentiates her from an airbrushed photograph. Colin's hands are rough and damaged. He has a small birthmark on the back of his left wrist, scars across 2 knuckles on his right hand. He's so obviously human, and she is so obviously not. She wonders for a flash what it's like for him to see these differences now, after the lake and the snow, and their skin that felt the same. "What do you think I'm made of?" she asks.
"I think you're made of awesome."
"I mean, you're mostly carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, some other stuff."
"Probably a lot of other stuff."
He laughs.
"I eat a lot of junk food."
"But what am I?" She presses her hand to his chest again, brushes a curl off his forehead. Even when she's trying as hard as she can to be still, she swears she can feel the collisions of thousands of molecules inside her. "I feel like my body is solid mass, but so different, like I'm made up of the elements that happen to be hanging out in the air at any given moment." He slowly peeks up at her and smiles.
"You're definitely here, and you're definitely different. I think I like your theory."
His eyes sparkle.
So I guess we should be glad you weren't brought back somewhere near Chernobyl. You'd be even hotter.
She laughs, and he grins at his own cleverness, but their smiles fade as they stare at each other.
When I kissed your cheek at the lake, before I went in, you were more solid, he says.
She felt it too, felt stronger, more present. Maybe it's the water in the air. It's drier here in your room with the heater on. If there's more moisture in the air, there's simply more content for my body to steal and use. He makes a sound in the back of his throat that sounds like agreement. The question bubbles up, escapes. What were you thinking when you found me on the trail but you were still in the lake? He blinks away, looking out the window.
I didn't feel cold or hot or scared. I only wanted to find you.
Why don't you seem to want to talk about this? He pushes his hands behind his head.
Because I want to do it again.
The sentence, finely and so plainly spoken aloud, echoes in his room, hanging like a thick plastic curtain between them and coating the moment with a strange, leaden shadow. Her immediate reaction to his words is a paradoxical relief, so her response comes out thickly, like it's fighting to stay on her tongue. Colin, that is insane.
What do you mean?
He asks, sitting up so she's forced to move off his lap.
I ended up on that trail beneath your tree, Luce. There was something different about that world. Something perfect. And you were there. It isn't insane.
She tucks her legs under her and stares at him. Part of her, the part that is dark and tiny and dangerous, feels a thick, curling love for what he is saying. He's right. It wasn't insane. For those few minutes, she could touch him, kiss him. He was hers. On the trail, he was just like her. And then she remembers that she's supposed to be his guardian, and a sharp spike of guilt shoots through her.
It was easy to find you, he says, like we were meant to be there together.
Colin, I know what Henry says about me protecting you, but, you could have frozen to death. You could have drowned. He leans forward, carefully kissing her bare shoulder next to the strap of her top. He pushes it aside and kisses the spot where her heart should beat. What feels like pure white electricity shoots through her. She wants to put her hands in his hair and hold him there.
I don't think so,
he says. Lucy opens her mouth to argue the obvious, but when no words come out right away, Colin shakes his head.
Just listen, okay?
She nods, unable to protest convincingly. She has no idea how much time she has with him. It lends a certain urgency to every minute. She wants him in the water, on the trail, in the underwater starry sky with her.
What if I could go into the lake again and have an hour with you every now and then? Just us, curled up together in the snow. Luce, the world was crazy there. It was silver and light and alive.
When he pauses, she can't find words, and in her silence he barrels on, encouraged.
I have to see it again. Jay could come with us and pull me out fast.
She remembers feeling his skin and his lips and his laughter. She remembers tasting his sounds and feeling how they fit. He kissed her like he was discovering a new, vibrant color. And while she remembers other kisses, smiles pressed tightly to hers, she knows it was never like this. Still, the temptation tastes wrong somehow. A vinegar-dipped sugar cube. I don't know if he would be up for that. She trails off shakily.
After you walked away in the hall, this girl Liz came up. She said her cousin fell into this lake in Newfoundland. He got out, but was unconscious on the ice for 4 hours.
Her eyes snap to his. What?
4,
he confirms, grinning at her reaction as if she's already signed on to this. She stands, moving to fiddle with a cup full of pens on his desk. She lifts it easily as if it weighs nothing. Before she has a chance to marvel at the achievement, he stands and walks over to her, unbuttoning his shirt.
I read about the story, Luce. It's true. It was all over the local news, and it's happened before. Apparently, there's at least one story about it every winter. The reporter is one of the guys on the forums now. He's totally obsessed with it.
He puts a hot hand on her shoulder and squeezes gently, but this time she barely registers it. She wants more information.
I think if we're careful, we can make it work. Plus,
he says quieter now,
that kid didn't even have a guardian.
If I let you do this, I'm not a guardian, she says, stepping out of his grip. I'm something bad. She tries to keep her voice light, but the truth keeps the words stark, blown bare like a smooth tree trunk.
You're definitely not bad,
he says, with the kind of conviction that she's certain she'll never have.
Do you know how I know?
She looks up and melts. In the dark room, his eyes are deep amber, his lashes long, and his blink so slow and patient. How?
Because I've lost everyone I loved. Instead, I got you. The universe might have taken the others away, but it sent you back.
But don't you ever wonder why you need a guardian, and why it's me?
I used to.
He glances out the window and then down at his shoes, kicking at something on the floor. She watches him closely. With a small tug of anxiety beneath her ribs, she realizes he's kept something from her. What changed? He looks up again and meets her eyes.
I think we're connected because I was the kid who saw your murderer take you into the woods. I told Dot, and she called the police.
Lucy stills, her hands bracing on the desk chair behind her. Why didn't you tell me this? Colin speaks over her, apologizing immediately.
I was afraid that if you had closure, if you knew all the details, that you'd go away.
He reaches out, touches her arm as if to convince himself that she is indeed still here. So they caught this guy because of you? He shrugs.
I think so. That's what the article said anyway.
She feels her smile form on her face and spread down into her chest, where she never feels hollow when she's with him. I may have only a pocket full of memories about anything useful, but I do know one thing.
What's that?
You were my guardian first, then. His grin matches hers, but it has a distinctly cocky twist to it.
I like to think so.
Chapter 24. Him. Colin is positive that Lucy is into the idea of returning to the lake. Her eyes are this crazy orange, as if her entire brain is on fire with the possibilities, and a light passes back through her irises like a telegraph to him. Do this. Do it. This can only end badly. But her voice wavers a bit, and he wonders if it's something she's thought about before today, too. Days turn into weeks, and the snow keeps falling, blanketing everything that doesn't move. Colin doesn't push, doesn't talk to Lucy about going into the lake anymore. Instead, their conversations slowly grow heavy with everything left unsaid. One morning she asks him what he's thinking about, and his starkly honest answer, how you felt on the trail, makes her turn and walk away, arms crossed over her middle as if holding herself together. But she finds him later, after class, a small apology in her eyes and in her smile. He says his aloud. Sorry, I know you don't like the idea, and holds her face between his palms, repeating it against her lips. They walk together, hands entwined, back to his dorm. She reads on his bed while he does homework, lying on her stomach, her legs bent, feet slowly kicking back and forth. Colin gives up pretending to read for outright staring at her, remembering the trail, her hungry kisses, her solid weight. There was nothing insubstantial or unsatisfying about the kiss on the trail. He felt her laughter. Lucy. She hesitates before looking up, as if sensing something particular in his tone. He watches her fingertips stroking her collarbone while she stares at his hands. Her eyes flash warm and deep amber when she catches him looking at her throat, at the spot he first parted his lips and tasted her skin. It was sweet and the tiniest bit salty. She tasted of girl and rain and relief. He doesn't say anything else, only looks at her, thinking, Please, please. I can't, she says. You can't. Why? I wouldn't be able to live with myself if we did that. He can't help it. He smiles when she says this, and her mouth twitches at the corners. Colin, I'm serious. But he can't stand the thought that it won't happen again. His curiosity feels like an itch across every inch of his skin. I need to know if what I saw was real. Her eyes melt to the color of warm honey before she turns back to her book, her fingers making a tight fist around his comforter. There's nothing in the world as good as what happened on the trail, he says. When she looks up, she looks so miserable. I know. But we don't have that here, he whispers. It isn't the same. She squirms, pulling her hair over her shoulder and squinting at the words on the page in front of her. He ignores her feigned distraction, crawling toward her in a way that makes him feel like a predatory cat hunting prey. Lucy. Her eyes remain trained on the page. What? Let me try this. Try what? He reaches for her, gently urging her to twist and lie on her back, easing her down onto his pillow. It takes nothing to undress her. The slip of a button, a tug of a zipper, soft fabric pulled over her head. He pinches a simple clasp and exposes a world of smooth, bare skin. I have an idea, he assures her, his hands slipping her pants down her legs. Just trust me, okay? Okay. She nods, watching him with eyes that churn a deep coffee brown. I've given this some thought. She laughs, and it's husky and low. I bet you have. He tastes the skin of her ankle, her knee, thigh. He blows a breath across where her leg meets hip. Is this okay? She nods, eyes wider than he's ever seen them, and he simply exhales right where her legs are parted. He doesn't even have to pretend to breathe fast. He's practically out of his mind with wanting this girl, watching her writhe below him. Her fingers find his hair and pull. Her back bows, and with one last puff of air across her skin, he hears a sound he's never heard a girl make before, something between a sob and a plea. But still, he sits up and kisses her afterward and apologizes. Curling into him, she apologizes too. I want to actually touch you next time, he says into the sweetness of her neck. She presses her face into his shoulder, her second apology coming out only as air. He does what she asks and stays away from the lake and the misty trails and the ice. It feels like the snow swallows him too. A heavy weight settles into his bones like blocks of cement anchoring his feet to the ground. But his insides rage. Colin and Lucy go to school. He works when he's scheduled, and they spend long nights cocooned in his blankets and wrapped around each other so close that he can't tell where he ends and she begins. But it's not the same. He tells her she's more than he ever hoped for. He tells her that he's in love. He asks her to never leave. But she does. When he opens his eyes in the blue-gray light of dawn, the air is unmoving. There's no soft hum next to him, no phantom weight pressed against his chest. He sits up slowly, runs his hand through his hair, and stands, dressing in the first clean clothes that he finds. He doesn't look back at the empty bed. 8 hours of school stretch in front of him, and he wonders how he'll make it through, carrying around the restless need to look for her, wrapped up in the knowledge that it's useless. He can't even think about how long she might be gone this time. Days? Weeks? Longer? Thinking of her is like pressing on a bruise. Fascination, sick pleasure, and lingering pain. On the walk to work, he remembers what he said as they fell asleep. Stay. He thinks he felt her slipping through his fingers even then, felt her grow lighter in his arms as she arched against his body like a feather caught in a breeze. He's done everything she's asked, but it wasn't enough. Colin talks Jay into skipping school the next day. They throw the bikes in the back of his truck and head out to the lake, hiking their way to where a few daring sledders have packed down the snow. For a few hours, he's almost able to forget. They ride through the cold until he's sweating beneath layers of clothing, pushing himself harder than he has in ages. They tackle the trails, jump off ramps, and each wipe out at least a dozen times on an impromptu ramp they cut into the snow. Colin is balancing on the back of the bench near the lake when Jay finally asks the question Colin knows has been gnawing at him. She's gone again, isn't she? Colin's tires land with a soft crunch, and he looks up at Jay, squinting against the brightness of the sky. Yeah. Shit. Dude, do you think she's off using somewhere? She isn't into drugs. Colin glares at Jay before looking down and flicking a leaf off his handlebar. The hills are silent, but the wind howls around them, catching the snow and spinning it before letting it fall back to the ground. I think I need to tell you something. Jay kicks the snow from his boots and waits. So, Lucy... Man, I don't even know how to say this. Colin laughs at the absurdity of this and feels a wave of sympathy for Lucy in hindsight, for his reaction the night she told him the truth. But God, he needs to tell someone. He's not sure he can go another day shouldering the weight of her absence alone. She's dead, he says simply, after all. Jay's legs buckle, and he catches the back of the bench before slipping. What the hell? How are you just telling me? No, not like that. I mean, she's always been dead, Jay. Well, not always, but at least as long as I've known her. Eyes narrowed, Jay's expression pinches into irritation. That's not funny. Colin doesn't answer. He only stares down at the slush as it seeps into the sides of his shoes. You know she's different. Yeah, different. Like with the boots and badass take on the frumpy uniform and how she doesn't look at anyone but you. Not dead. I know it sounds crazy. You think? Long moments of silence stretch between them before Jay adds, You're serious about this? Colin meets his eyes, gaze unwavering, and nods. So she's what, like a walker? Yeah, essentially. But I've helped her with her coat, Jay trails off, blinking. We don't understand everything. She met another ghost here at school, and he's convinced they're like guardian spirits or something. Okay. Jay scratches his neck, looking completely confused. So, just stay with me here, okay? Jay nods, and Colin breaks a brittle twig from the tree beside him, poking deep holes in the snow near his rear tire. When I fell into the lake that day, I think I had some sort of out-of-body experience. I was standing behind you, watching you freak out. Then, I don't even know why, but I walked away, down the trail. Like I wasn't even worried or scared. Lucy was running down the trail, and I yelled for her to stop. She thought I got out of the lake somehow. I mean, she could see me, even though my body was with you on the ice. And Jay, I could feel her. Colin can't tell if Jay believes any of this, because his face doesn't register any reaction. But Colin pushes on. Before I went in, and now, I can't really touch her. I can, but it overwhelms her. And when she touches me, it's never enough. Colin can feel the heat in his cheeks. He and Jay don't talk specifics. Sorry, I know this is TMI, but I need to get it out. It's cool. I sort of owe you one. I'm pretty sure you were awake that one time Kelsey stayed over and... I was, Colin said, waving away the awkward memory. Lucy's touch makes me crazy because it's always almost enough to feel good, but then it stops short. Grabbing the back of his neck, he winces. We can't... no way could we be together like that. And it's not even about that. It's her, and the way everything looked when I went in. Seriously, Jay, it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Jay blinks away, out toward the span of trees hiding the lake from their view. This sounds crazy. I know. No, I'm legitimately worried that you have brain damage. I don't. I'm not crazy, Jay. Jay looks back at him then. Colin can tell when his best friend believes him because his face falls, and he looks defeated, as if insanity or brain damage would be a far easier solution. Colin laughs because he's had the same reaction. This is funny? Jay asks, confusion bleeding into defensiveness. No, not even a little. It's that I know exactly what you're thinking. I wish I was crazy. I don't have a lot of experience with crazy people. I haven't ruled it out yet. Well, then, let me get everything out. He pauses, glancing up at Jay before dropping his gaze to the stick he stabbed deep into the snow. I think we could do it again. Do what again? Jay asks slowly, enunciating every syllable. Go into the lake. Before Jay can get a word in, Colin barrels on. I started researching hypothermia, and it takes a long time for the brain to shut down entirely. In between being cold and being dead, there's a lot of room. You are crazy. No, Jay, listen. I understand it. Metabolism slows. The body shuts down to preserve energy. But the mind is still active, and in that time, I'm somehow able to be like her. Before Lucy disappeared, I promised I wouldn't talk about it anymore, but staying out of the lake didn't keep her here. Jay groans and rubs his face, and it's at this moment that Colin knows his best friend is going to help him. So we do this now, or when she gets back? When she gets back. I don't know if I can find her now. I don't know where she is. Are you sure about this? This isn't riding on chains and boards over the quarry, Colin. The day you went into the lake was fucking scary. I thought you died. I'm here and fine. Colin tells him about Liz's cousin, how he fell through the ice and stayed out for 4 hours, how he's alive and walking around. He tells Jay about the forums, how the people there see hypothermia as the ultimate extreme sport. You're the only one I'd trust. So how would this work? We'd, plan it? Have supplies? A time limit? Exactly. Colin's heart begins pounding in his chest. His veins are infused with a high better than any adrenaline rush. He lays out his plan. He'll strip down, submerge himself long enough for his pulse to slow and his core temp to drop, and then Jay will pull him out. We'll time it right down to the second, and you'll resuscitate me. We can take some equipment from the campus infirmary. After what happened on the lake, no way is anyone going to risk needing the winter emergency kit. Lucy will stand on the trail where she was before, and we'll see if it works. When he's done, Colin is shocked to see that Jay doesn't look all that horrified, even when he says, "See if it works, as in, see if you don't die?" Colin smiles. "Jay, I'm not going to die." Jay watches him, and Colin can feel the weight of every second as it passes. He doesn't want to force Jay into anything, but he can't lie to him either. "You don't have to," he says, hoping Jay can hear the apology in every one of his words. "But I'll do it without you. I have to." Jay doesn't react, only nods like he's hearing something he already knew. "You know, this will be the wildest thing we've ever done." "Yeah." Jay exhales deeply. "Okay, you crazy asshole. I'm in."
Chapter 25. Her. Coming back this time is just as mild. A blink, a tugging on her limbs. Darkness becomes light, but where she was warm and happy, waiting for the boy on the trail, she's now scorching hot. Colin's back is pressed to her front once again. And this time she knows she's been gone, because she feels as if she's been woken up, and Lucy knows she doesn't sleep. She vanishes. "Hi," she whispers into his back. He stiffens.
"Lucy?"
His voice is thick with sleep. "How long?" His spine relaxes, pressing back into her.
"Just 2 days."
"You okay?"
"No."
His alarm goes off, and he swats the snooze button with his palm before rolling over to face her. "I'm sorry."
"You don't need to be."
She pushes his hair back. "I am anyway. I tried not to get so relaxed again." He kisses her so carefully, as if too much contact will cause her to evaporate. His tongue glances her lip, her tongue, the skin of her neck. His piercing is cold, his skin is hot. His hands pull her closer, shadow up and down her sides and over her curves.
"Missed you,"
he whispers. Last time when she returned from being gone, he looked angry. This time he seems resigned. She pulls back so she can see his face more clearly. His freckles have faded in the past month, and only now, with a couple of days away, does she notice. His eyes are dimmer in the dark room, but something fierce drums behind them, matching the rhythm of the pulse in his throat. His Adam's apple bobs as he swallows thickly.
"I told Jay."
"Told him what?"
"That you're a walker."
She falls silent in the face of such a blunt admission.
"I was freaking out and worried I imagined everything. I needed someone else to hear it and believe it."
He laughs dryly. She nods, supposing she can't be upset with him any more than he can be with her for disappearing. "Okay." She draws the word out carefully. "How'd he take it?" He rolls onto his back, staring at the ceiling. He's shirtless. Lucy's eyes move instinctively to his bare skin, over the smooth lines of his chest, the definition of his stomach, and lower.
"He didn't believe me at first, but we didn't talk about that for long. We talked about me going into the lake again."
Lucy's body pricks, each element drawn to the surface, making her feel like a brittle, spiked shell. "Colin."
"He's game, Lucy. He said he'll do it for me."
"And are you doing it for me?" she asks, hearing the bite in her words and feeling proud that they came out the way she intended. Because no, thanks.
"I'm doing it for both of us. I know it will work."
He gives her his trademark slow blink, filled with cocky confidence, but the gesture is wrong. He's doing this because she would never ask it of him, even though he probably sees straight through her to her traitor glee. "This is a bad time to talk about this," she says quietly. "I just got back, and I know you were scared when I vanished again. I feel like I can't say no to this, but I want to." The lie burns in her throat. He sits up, facing away from her and bending to put his head in his hands.
"We'll talk about it later, then."
Later turns out to be in the crowded dining hall, surrounded by 400 other students. Later turns out to be with Jay.
"I told Lucy that you know,"
Colin says before taking a giant bite of pizza. Suddenly, the drone of hundreds of students feels completely silent. Jay and Lucy stare at him for a beat before looking at each other.
Yeah,
Jay says.
He told me. Sorry about the being dead.
Lucy smiles weakly, raises her hands and shakes them. Ta-da! With the truth out between the three of them, Jay lets himself look. Really look. It's not like Lucy has never been inspected. Colin stares at her all the time, examining how she fits together, or maybe trying to get his mind to believe what his eyes see and his heart feels. But other than Colin, no one ever looks at her. Not like this. Jay's attention is unnerving and unrelenting.
Dude, she's not made of wax. You're making her twitchy.
Jay sits back in his chair, letting it teeter back on two legs.
I can't tell.
Colin leans forward.
What? I mean, unless you look closely, she just looks like a chick.
She is a chick, Lucy says, annoyed at the conversation that's happening as if she's not sitting right here.
I mean, yeah, your skin is super smooth and you look kind of...
He waves his hands vaguely.
Glassy, but you look like a chick.
She scowls. Maybe we can talk about this somewhere other than the middle of the dining hall during lunch.
In case you haven't noticed, no one looks at you,
Jay says, slapping his chair down with a loud clap and reaching for his apple.
So no one is watching us either.
She exhales and looks away, out the window to where snow is falling in fluffy handfuls from the silver blue sky. She listens to the sound of the boys digging into their lunches for several minutes before Jay speaks.
Colin says you're not up for the lake again.
Her head snaps to Colin and she narrows her eyes.
I think he's right,
Jay continues, leaning forward and catching her gaze.
I think it's like an extreme sport. He's healthy and young. My obsessive hunter father has ensured that I know CPR. The infirmary is full of supplies. And I got Colin back last time without anything.
Which was lucky for everyone, she counters. Were you this enthusiastic when he suggested it to you yesterday?
Nah,
Jay says, grinning.
I thought all those hits to the skull had finally done him in, but I've come around.
Lucy shakes her head at this strange display of trust and loyalty. Why are you invested in this? Jay takes a bite of apple and shrugs.
Colin's lost a lot of people. I like the idea that he'll chase you down and keep you from getting away.
Lucy looks at Colin, who is watching her with a painfully vulnerable, hopeful expression. He squints, analyzing her eyes, and then smiles. She doesn't know what color they are or what he's seen, but somehow he already knows she's going to say yes. She'd pushed for a warmer day, but January in Boundary County has few of those to offer. With blankets and a duffel bag of pilfered equipment in Jay's backpack, the three of them head out to the lake. Jay talks non-stop as they walk. Lucy can't tell if it's nervous energy or how he is when heading out to do any activity motivated by complete insanity. She and Colin hum in agreement or dissent whenever it seems called for, but she can tell Colin isn't listening either. His fingers are wrapped carefully around hers, and she grips them as tightly as she can manage. She can feel his skin squeeze between her fingers and meets his surprised eyes. They crunch through the snow to the giant open gash in the ice and unload everything, the air humming with the strangely loud silence that comes in a moment perched on the edge of adventure. While she waits, she takes a moment to look around. It's easy to see why the lake's gotten such a paranormal reputation. In the blue-gray light of the winter afternoon, it's downright eerie, and ribbons of fog seem to cling to its surface. It isn't hard to imagine ghosts walking aimlessly along the shore, or even a madman dragging a young girl to her death. Lucy stares at the icicles looping from the box elders, heavy and gaudy with splinters of sunshine slanting through. She looks at her tree, towering above the two benches at the edge of the lake. She doesn't think she's ever taken the time to look at it before, but now that she does, a shiver runs through her that has nothing to do with the January wind tugging at the ends of her frozen hair. The branches arc upward, each spindly twig like fingers hoping to pluck a ghost from the sky. Jay blows loudly into his hands and she turns toward him, grateful for the distraction. Lucy isn't sure what she expected. Maybe Colin walking around the side of the cracked ice, inspecting, maybe psyching himself up to the act. But whatever it was, she certainly did not expect him to strip down to his boxers within minutes of the supplies being set up and jump feet first through the original crack in the ice into the frigid water. She barely has time to be gripped with panic, to feel every part of her shift to the middle and clench where her heart used to beat. His head dips underwater and he surfaces, gasping and cursing, his arms grabbing wildly for the tether they've attached to his wrist.
Cold. Oh my God, it's cold.
Jay bounces at the edge of the entry point, jittery and unsure.
You done? You want out? No,
Colin yells.
Just... shit, it's cold.
He shivers violently. Colin? Lucy calls. Her chest grows with the sensation of hot, rushing water filling her empty heart. The heady sensation is disorienting, completely at odds with the panic her brain tells her to feel. Get out. I'm done. This is insanity. I don't want this. She reaches for him, but Jay bats her hands away.
I got this. Lucy, this is what he wants to do.
Teeth chattering, Colin nods and then dunks under the freezing water again, determined to soak his hair. This is wrong, Lucy whispers. Jay, this is going to kill him.
It won't,
he says, voice steady. How can he be so sure when everything inside Lucy is colliding?
I'm okay,
Colin whispers over and over again.
I'm okay.
After what feels like an eternity filled with the sound of water lapping against ice, of Colin's huffing breaths, of Jay muttering reassurances over and over,
You can do this. You got this. You can hang, buddy, come on. A few more minutes and you get to touch your girl. You can do this.
Colin shudders once, and then his eyes roll back as he turns and bobs in the water. Jumping into action, Jay reaches for Colin's arm and pulls him out, dragging him on his side to a foil blanket spread out on the ice. He checks the time and then watches him lying there, unmoving. Revive him! She screams, slapping his shoulder hard. Why aren't you reviving him? She looks at her hand, at the flush of blood she can almost see pumping beneath her skin. Something hums in her ears. A heartbeat.
Just give him a minute,
Jay says with a level of calm she can't comprehend.
We've checked this all out. He's good for a while.
Colin's semi-lifeless body is blue and mostly naked, laid out on the foil blanket. He looks skinnier than she remembers. His muscles spasm sharply. As soon as Colin has coughed all of the water he inhaled out on the foil, Jay sits back and just watches him shiver. Jay seems calm. He's totally on board with this insanity. No nerves, no hesitation. Just as she's on the verge of screaming her panic into the dull gray sky, she hears,
Luce, turn around.
She swivels toward Colin's voice, and her heart melts.
Chapter 26. Him. Lucy launches herself at him, heavy and warm and full. Her lips find his neck, his jaw, his mouth. He could consume this girl, he thinks. He could bury himself in her and never come up for air. With her neck exposed and her smile so big it reflects the sky above, Colin realizes he'd expected they would run off into the powdery snow and strip and just get down to it. But when she raises her head and looks at him, her eyes full of relief and excitement and fear and desire, the only thing he wants is to be here, like this. The world around him is so bright and full of detail, he finds it hard to even blink. It's exactly like he remembers. She's taking his lead, her fingers wrapped around his arms, waiting for him to decide where he wants to go. All he knows is he doesn't want to watch Jay when he starts resuscitating him. Colin tugs her arm and leads her to a bench a few 100 feet down the trail. Colin remembers his 10th grade photography class and how exposure is measured in lux seconds, brightness over time. The sweet spot was always that point where everything was visible, but before the light bled through, erasing the details. here, in this world, it seems that the amount of light that can exist is limitless, and all it does is show him more. More color, more detail. Each rare leaf has a tiny skeleton, visible from even 10 feet away. The clouds are gone. The sky is blue, yes, but also green and yellow and even red. When he inhales, he thinks he can feel each molecule colliding inside his lungs. They sit. They smile. This is the strangest thing that has ever happened in this universe. He's convinced of it. His body could be dying on the lake, and whatever it is that makes him live, his spirit or soul, is beyond elated to just be here. Lucy wraps a blanket around his shoulders. She climbs into his lap, facing him, wrapping them up so only their heads peek out the top. "I'm not cold," he says. "I know, but it's weird to see you like this, without a blanket." She smiles, bending to kiss his jaw. He lets his head fall back, feeling. Her hands slip up his front. Solid, solid, solid touches. His skin rises to meet her fingertips. She talks softly as she kisses around his neck, his face, his ears. "You okay?" He nods. This place is the most intense thing he's ever seen, and Lucy feels better than anything, than everything, even than warm water running down cold skin, or the first bloom of sugar on his tongue. Better than fast sex or a faster downhill ride. "You're humming." She laughs. "I'm in heaven." She stills, fingers paused, splayed across his ribs. "You're not." "I didn't mean that. Settle down, Trigger. I meant metaphorically." She leans back and watches him. "You think I'm insane, don't you? You think this is insane," he says, suddenly made uneasy by the intensity in her swirling gray-green eyes. "Yes," she says, leaning back in. She sucks his ear, tugs at his hair. "No." She moves closer, squirming over him. "There's very little about us that isn't absurd." "Most of it's not absurd," he says, for some reason prickling at this. "We aren't absurd. It's that—" He searches for the right ending and gives up, laughing. "You're dead, and I'm kind of in between right now." "Oh, that," she says into his neck. "Not absurd at all." His hands find waist, ribs, breasts. They grow wild and impatient, itching to feel every inch. Although part of him realizes that Lucy simply feels like girl, soft curves, skin that responds to his fingers, and her half-word exhales, most of him thinks that Lucy feels like no other girl ever. She's softer. Her sounds are the best sounds. He grabs her hips, squeezes. An embarrassing groan escapes his lips at the shape of her, but it makes her smile. "You like to squeeze?" "What?" He lifts his head, trying to understand her meaning through her eyes. They're honey, hungry brown. "In the picture with your ex-girlfriend? The picture with Trinity from the winter formal?" She nods. "You're gripping her hips. You're gripping them like you knew them." He grins down at her. "That is such a chick thing to notice. Like I knew them. What does that even mean?" "Like you gripped them a lot." "Let's not talk about my ex-girlfriend right now, please." "I'm serious. Do you miss being with a girl you can grip?" "No." She's skeptical. "I want that with you, it's true, but I don't want sex so much that it's worth getting it elsewhere. She fights a smile, though Colin doesn't know why. Let that smile out, he tells her. I'm so crazy about you and your hips that I can't grip. Lucy gives him a smile that could power a small town. You're so hot, he whispers. To prove him wrong, she grabs a small handful of snow off the back of the bench and presses it to her chest. It stays there, crystalline and twinkling in the unearthly blue light. Slowly, her skin takes it in. He imagines their bodies like this must be such scavengers, needing to steal anything solid to take form. Now his girl is made of snow and beauty. Tell me a story, she says. He stares at the giant sky for a beat before an image pops into his head. My parents used to have this huge king-size bed. At the foot of it was a wood chest my grandma had sent from Tibet or Thailand or something. I was jumping on the bed and slipped and cracked my collarbone on the edge of the chest. Lucy winces over him, a full-body impact wince, and it makes him laugh because what on her could break? So my mom rushed me to the emergency room and I got put in the world's most awkward cast. I was almost 6 and we called it the rack. That was right before they died. He's run out of words. It's not a very telling story, or even that long. It was only the first of several times he's broken a collarbone. He fiddles with the ends of her hair, tying it in knots and watching it unravel. Do you miss your parents? Sometimes. I only sort of remember them. Sometimes I wish I knew enough to miss them more. It feels right somehow that they would have the hardest conversations here, where they can reassure each other without actual contact. What he wants to tell her is how he gets his chosen family. He gets her. What do you remember? He can understand why Lucy seems fascinated with the possibility that a part of Colin's life is as fragmented as the entirety of hers. Colin has particles of memories of his parents, supported by pictures and stories from Dot and Joe. I don't remember much. Most of it's been filled in for me. Dad was kind of dorky. I'm sure he would be the kind of dad that embarrasses the hell out of me now. He laughs. But he was fun, and would play on the floor, carry me on his shoulders, tell me way too many details about the animals at the zoo. That kind of dad. My mom was careful. Well, they both were, especially after Caroline died. And at least until she lost it, Mom was quiet and liked to read and write and overthought everything. Never wanted me to run or hurt myself. Dot says that's why I'm so crazy now. She says I'm like them, but turned inside out. I keep my careful bits on the inside. She says it's why I'm so easy to be around, but so hard to know. Lucy is tracing something on his chest, a spiral or letters or a shape. Finally, he realizes she's drawing a heart. Not a heart like a valentine, but a heart. It calls his attention to his lack of pulse, to the hollow, organless sensation he gets when he realizes he's not corporeal. Suddenly he feels like his chest is sinking inward, like a crumpling, empty paper bag. He stills both of her hands between his. Did they have a good marriage? She asks. I think so. I mean, they died when I was 6, so... He looks out at the crystal blue lake in the distance. Caroline died right after we moved here. I'm sure that didn't help their marriage. Colin stares at a spot over her shoulder. I've been thinking a lot lately. I wasn't very old, but I know my mom drank a little before we lost my sister. It got a lot worse after. And no one blamed her. I mean, her 9-year-old kid got hit by a delivery truck. I'm pretty sure everyone understood why she went off the deep end. But what if she wasn't crazy? What if she really did see Caroline? Is it possible she was really there? It's possible, Lucy says. I'm here. I'll never know, will I? I don't know. But you'll see them again. He pauses, looking up to where she's hovering above him. You think so? She studies him for a beat, searching his expression. Yeah, I do. He kisses her for that, for being so convinced his family will find each other, for the possibility of a good life after death, for knowing it's what he needed to hear even if he didn't know it. Her kisses are small and sweet, little sucking lollipop kisses on his lower lip, nibbling kisses, finally, the aching, deeper kisses he wants. I'm glad you're here, she says. She's glad he's here, not that she's back there in his human world of flesh and bone. He finds that he feels the same. Every word sounds so much more intimate when it's accompanied by the sensation of flesh under fingers. Colin has never felt this close to anyone, not even in the infatuation stage when he becomes a mindless walking erection. This feeling here is almost too intense when he kisses her, this need to get beneath her skin with fingertips and lips and each hungry part of him. Conversation falls away, and his touches grow desperate because he can feel a strangely rhythmic pressure on his chest and knows it's Jay, behind them, back at the lake, reviving Colin's body. He's warming from the inside out. Colin rolls Lucy off the bench and onto the trail and starts to touch lower and lower, feeling her hip bones and hidden skin beneath silky fabric to where she melts into smooth, wet girl. Her hands dig down and wrap around him, constricting in this insane, perfect way, and in a flash he worries that they've wasted all this time talking, but then he looks down at her, and she's grinning the happiest, goofiest smile, and it grows wider and wider, even as he starts to dissolve out of her hands. He's not ready to be gone, but he knows he gets to keep her anyway, and every second of today has been better than any second that came before. Colin vanishes with the vision of Lucy, rumpled and half undressed, her swirling eyes and ruby lips, smiling out the word, bye.
Chapter 27. Her. Lucy doesn't need to remember her entire life before to know she's never spent so much time staring at a boy's fingers. They jerk, as if attached to a metal cogwheel, ratcheting open and closed. Colin flexes them again and again, and then, catching her watching, curls them into a fist.
Luce.
She looks up at his scowl.
I'm fine.
Your hands are... She makes jerky finger gestures, unwilling to say broken or stiff, or worst of all, wrong.
Come here. I'll show you how fine they are.
Finally, a relieved giggle escapes from her throat in a sharp burst. It sounds edgy, like it might be too close to a sob to hold its shape. She can't believe he's here, and person-colored and warm, and that 5 hours after being in the frozen lake, the only thing that seems to be off is how slowly he bends his fingers.
It wasn't that bad. Coming back, I mean.
He whispers into the darkness of his dorm room. He's hidden beneath several layers of blankets, and the space seems exceptionally quiet now that Jay has worn out his post-resurrection high and left for the night. What he says is true. Jay insists that bringing Colin back was easy, but agreeing with Colin right now feels wrong, as if the universe is merely waiting for her to say that stiff fingers and a few bruises are a small price to pay before snatching everything away at once. It felt like they were together for days. Days of talking and touching and holding each other so closely there was no air left between them. In reality, it was only 15 minutes. Jay said he started to freak when Colin was shivering so bad he almost jerked off the foil blanket. But time felt generous then, stretching every minute into what felt like 20.
Lucy, stop staring at my hands and come over here.
She slips in beside him and he pulls her close, her big, warm spoon. She feels stronger and more present than she can ever remember feeling, and Colin mumbles something happy and content. What?
You,
he says sleepily.
Just wondering if you feel different because you're different or because I'm feeling you differently.
What do you mean?
You feel more solid, stronger.
Stronger how? She wants to know if it feels the same to him, as if she's growing more permanent. Instead of answering, he says simply,
I want to go in again.
If Lucy thought Jay and Colin were organized before, they're almost militaristic this time around. New rescue equipment and supplies are spread out on the carpet in front of them. They choose the best time of day based on the almanac and weather predictions. They pack and repack supplies, outlining every possible scenario down to the smallest detail. It's reassuring, in a completely warped way. She knows that if she protests too much, Colin will hear the lie in her words. She doesn't want him to risk his life, but there's a part of her that strengthens and blooms every time he talks about this. Is it greed? She's not sure how to process what she's feeling, this fascination with watching someone she loves be so wholeheartedly reckless.
Last time I held your core temp pretty steady at around 92.
Jay snickers and adds,
Of course, it'd be more accurate if I could measure rectally. How many times do I have to tell you you're never going there?
Colin says. Lucy stares as they cackle like 12-year-olds before turning back to the notebook in her lap. She scribbles messy circles and squares, flowers and clouds, trying to remember her favorite words and how they come together under the pressure of her pencil. Crystalline, lattice, momentum, sublimate, enthalpy. The words burst into her thoughts, reminding her of a classroom, of traveling to the university to study in the humid summer months, of a scholarship that would have been hers. When she looks down at the paper, she's surprised to find each letter written in perfect script, no shaky or disappearing lines. She stares at them, reveling in these small pieces returning. She's never been able to hold a pencil for long, let alone put ideas to paper. So watching the words uncurl from the tip of her pencil is almost as fascinating as the guy's strange obsession with this new lake activity.
Holy crap, Luce!
Colin shouts, and she immediately freezes, breaking the pencil lead against the paper. What?
You're writing.
He's grinning as if she's a toddler and just took her first step. Jay gives her a slow clap and whistles. Standing, Colin leaves their giant sprawl of gadgets and books and blankets to come sit near her on the bed. He reaches over, rubs her shoulder, and announces,
I think you're stronger lately, more solid.
She watches him. He's repeating himself, and his speech seems the slightest bit off, as if he has to build his thoughts one piece at a time. Before she can tell him that this is the same thing he said last night, a window blasts open, bringing a sharp funnel of freezing air inside and interrupting Colin's excitement. He forces the window closed, and when he returns, his hands are as cold as hers. But somehow the thrill it gives her, the hint of the cold to come, feels like fire. She wonders if this is how a tiger feels when it catches the scent of prey on the breeze, or how a long-distance runner feels with his toes bordering on the starting line. She feels like she might explode from her skin and vaporize into a million tiny glittering particles. Does this lightness, this exhilaration she feels as Colin strips down to his boxers, mean she might take flight? Last time Colin stripped and jumped straight in, like if he thought about it too long, he wouldn't go through with it. This time he stares at her, his grin building as slowly as his blinks are delivered. She steps back, and then again, turning to the trail before he's even submerged. It's exactly what she expects it to be. They meet at the spot on the trail and turn, laughing and running with the wind down the path to the shed, feet tripping over feet. Jay said he thinks he can give them an hour. An hour. Even with the bright white blue of morning outside, it feels like night inside the shed. Beams of light play with the stars of dust in the air, and Colin's skin looks lit from within, as if he's the different one now. He curses under his breath, a sound of wonder, cupping her face and kissing her so hard, so hungrily, and then he's walking her backward, around, helping her down onto the air mattress, shoving aside the pile of blankets. Dust clouds up around them, leaves crumble beneath, but the setting doesn't matter. His skin, her skin, it slides and presses, hot and smooth. Not too much, not too little. Perfect. They kiss, pulling away the last remnants of clothing, and then he's moving into her, moving over her and talking, and she doesn't care that it's going to end because this feeling is what they've been missing. The connection and touch, the communication that words can never reach. Colin whispers his love into her neck as he shakes above her. She clutches him, pressing her face against his skin and listening to the rustle of the blankets near her head as he releases them from his fists. Lucy doesn't want to move from this spot. Maybe ever.
"Are you okay?"
he asks quietly, his open mouth kissing a path across her throat to her ear. When she nods, he whispers,
"Not sure how I feel that our first time was in a dirty shed."
She laughs. I don't care about the setting. He pulls back and looks at her, playfully bereft but obviously giddy, and then he blinks, languid, just for her.
"I don't either."
The moment stretches. Colin hovers over her, kissing, eyes open, with an intensity that makes every muscle in her body tighten, makes her chest ache with how much he consumes her. He doesn't need to say he loves her, but he does. Then he's pulled from her body, flying backward again as if a band pulls at his chest, his mouth wide in an anguished cry in the shape of her name. He passes through the dancing bands of light and dust. He filters easily through the cracked walls and damp wood planks, and then Colin is gone. Hours. It feels like it takes hours to get dressed and tear back down the trail to where Jay pulled him out early, to where Colin will be awake. Lucy trips over roots and sticks in the snowy mud of the shore. She doesn't know how to manage these new strangely heavy limbs. And then she's there, falling on top of his blue-gray body and apologizing and kissing his unconscious face. What happened? Why did you bring him back early?
"I didn't, Lucy. I waited exactly an hour."
Jay pushes her away, forcing air into Colin's lungs and smacking his chest.
"Wake the fuck up, see?"
Lucy's hands curl into fists, a wave of anger flashing along her skin, and she shoves Jay's arm away, causing him to cry out, stare at her for a beat in horror.
"What happened to you?"
Jay asks, voice shaking. He squeezes his eyes shut and looks at her face again before he reaches for another hand warmer to shove into the mittens covering Colin's fingers.
"What happened to your face?"
"My face?" He shakes his head.
"Nothing. I must have—"
Lucy ignores Jay's rambling and bends over Colin, hugging him through the heavy layer of blankets. "I'm here. You're going to be okay. I'm here."
Chapter 28. Him. It's so strange to be in this place again, caught between life and life unraveling. Colin feels the faint burn of ice and snow against his skin, but he's not cold. Flashes of light pulse beyond his closed lids, and the echo of his name rings through the air in panicked voices, but he can't gather the strength to open his eyes. Despite the noise in his head, his chest is strangely silent. It's taking too long, and the instinct to return grows fainter and fainter. He feels a mild tickle of fear, but it's gone quickly. The urge to slip back into darkness wrapping around him like a blanket. In a thick, creeping realization, Colin understands that his inclination to curl back into the lake is because it's Lucy's lake. He's less surprised to feel positive that Lucy is the ghost at the lake than he is to feel in his frigid bones that she's been waiting for him. For so long, there hasn't been anything for him here, and there is everything for him in the lake. It would be so easy to go back in and walk down the trail to Lucy. That's all he's ever had to do.
Chapter 29. Her. His eyes open at once. Not the calm, fluttering awakening she expected, but one moment he's blue and unconscious, the next he's staring at her, gulping for air, his face burning red.
Luce,
he gasps. He inhales roughly, as if he's sucking oxygen through a straw. She presses on his neck to feel his pulse. Colin. She has a million questions. Can you feel me? Do you remember? Do you hurt? Can you move?
I think I know where you go.
He mumbles thickly into her neck. His entire body has begun to shiver violently, and it takes him a moment to get the words out.
I think you live in the lake.
Her veins run cold at the thought that her home is in that deep, isolated world, that she is the one haunting this school, but something about it rings true. She's more peaceful at the lake than she is anywhere else on campus, and there are no waters entering or leaving it. It's as landlocked as she is. Sunlight steals the darkness from Colin's bedroom inch by inch, and finally shines a spotlight on his warm, breathing body. For the 100th time, she memorizes his face, his neck, the way his hair curls and falls over his forehead. Wake up. Talk to me, she says. It's been one of the longest nights she spent with him, waiting for him to come to and show that he's not hurt, or sick, or brain damaged. He makes some groggy waking up noises, turning to face her.
Your skin feels so different lately.
He pauses, and Lucy hopes he's realizing that this conversation seems familiar.
Do you think it has to do with me?
He says instead. She pulls back to look at him, really look at him, as in try to see if his pupils are reacting to light and his skin has taken on his normal color. Does he not remember that they've had this conversation before, twice now? Maybe.
Do you think me being close to you, or even like you, in the lake somehow makes you more...
He shakes his head, rubbing his face.
Like, more real?
She smiles, trying to shake off the strange tickle in her spine she feels looking at his innocently wide-eyed expression. I want to be a real girl, Geppetto.
I'm serious.
Me too.
Maybe we can shift into some dimension that shows us how to make you human again,
he says,
with more practice.
She gives him her best what on earth are you talking about look. I don't think we'll be doing any more interdimensional Colin travel. I worry you've used up your last ticket. He shakes his head, immediately riled up, and although her mind worries, her heart feels a silent electric thrill. Something inside her begins beating, and it's this that worries her. If she's his guardian, why does it feel so good that he's falling apart? Lucy's never seen Jay rattled before. At least that's what she assumes is going on outside at lunch when he's silent and fidgety. His usually piercing eyes are focused on his shoes where he doodles with a black marker over older doodles. The fresh black ink stands out against the faded now gray. Over grenouille, he writes O. Over papillon, he writes foie. Almost as an afterthought, he adds chaud in capital letters above it all. Frog and butterfly become cold water, then hot. She digs in her thoughts for more words in French, but is greeted by only a vast expanse of gray. She can't puzzle out her memories, how they seem to be vaulted inside until they get the smallest nudge and then spill forward. She wonders what other things will tumble out when prodded. Maybe something to explain where she goes when she's gone, and what kind of guardian lets her protected dive into a frozen lake over and over just so she can touch him. I didn't know you took French, she says. Beside her, Colin is buried in a book about the acute effects of hypothermia.
I don't,
Jay says defensively, as if he's been caught somehow, as if he's the one who should be explaining himself. They're an awkward threesome, with a secret the size of the Pacific Ocean between them, carrying on with their normal lives in the strange world of private school. Sneakers squeak on the asphalt of the basketball court in the distance. A short, chubby kid makes 3 baskets in a row from the three-point line. Lucy wants to ask Jay how he knows the French word for frog if he doesn't take French, but it also seems like the most inconsequential question she could ask after everything that happened this last weekend. Are you okay, Jay?
My mom is French,
he says instead of answering. So that explains grenouille, she says, and he grins, correcting her pronunciation under his breath. But it doesn't explain why you're nonverbal today. Are you freaked out? His shrug is loose and slow. Jay is jerky and twitchy. The shrug is a decidedly non-Jay gesture.
Just thinking.
He reaches for a magazine inside his bag. The front is creased and covered in scribbled notes, drawings, and watermarks. The pages are dog-eared and torn on the edges. Dirt rag emblazoned across the top in jagged green lettering. Jay, Lucy begins, unsure of his mood and how to best phrase her thoughts. She looks over at Colin, satisfied that he's sufficiently distracted. Don't either of you have that voice in your head saying that what you're doing is crazy?
I do,
he says, then nods toward Colin.
He never has.
Of course Colin picks that exact moment to look up from his book.
I never have what? The self-preservation instinct. You never turn back from a hill or a jump. I've never seen you look at something and say, I shouldn't try that. It doesn't mean you always land it, but you always try. You have no good angel on your shoulder.
Bending to his magazine, Jay adds quietly,
Only the devil.
Colin laughs, and it feels like a fist squeezes Lucy's heart. Jay continues,
I can't believe it went like it did at the lake.
How so? Colin asks carefully. Lucy starts to compile an apology to Jay, shifting words in her head to make the best, simplest statement, so he understands that she appreciates what he did more than he knows. She considers adding they would never ask it of him again, but the words feel slippery in her thoughts. But instead of explaining his concern, Jay gives Colin a slow-growing smile.
It worked. I mean, look at you. You're fine. It's crazy that we can actually do this, and I'm over here just tripping out about it. I don't know why more people don't try. Makes me want to try.
Already nodding, Colin sweeps into the conversation, and the two of them are off a mile a minute, and although Lucy knows she should be worried, everything inside her surges with relief. Apparently, jumping into a frozen lake is like any other extreme sport. You think you're going to die, but what you get is the adrenaline rush of your life. She hates her reaction, hates her calm. She hates how much she wants Colin in the lake. She hates not understanding. So Lucy can't listen to their fascinated planning. It feels too much like condoning their insanity. Instead, she pats Colin's leg as she stands, telling him she's going for a walk. Despite her internal struggle, she feels strength wrapping solidly around her bones. Her muscles zip with vitality at the simple thought of seeing Colin go underwater, of meeting him on their trail. She wants to hide this strange, bounding strength from him, but knows she can't walk far enough to hide it from herself. Was it because she died near the lake? Is that the connection for them? Maybe if she understood what happened to the other guardians on campus, she'd know more about why she was back and why she can take Colin to her world. Colin's little sister died on the school road, and her mother drove them all over a bridge, possibly trying to find her. Now that Colin knows how to find Lucy's world, could it be different for them? Could they manage this strange balance in the world above and the one below? Where did Henry die, and is that where he goes when he's gone? In the library, Lucy searches the archives for any information about Henry Moss. The name shows up in several places, for a dentist in Atlanta, a high school football star in Augusta, and then a story about a 19-year-old college student from Billings killed by a hunter's stray bullet while hiking deep in the woods of St. O's campus. Leaning back in her chair, she stares at the picture of Henry before he died, smiling at the camera with his trademark wide grin. Caroline Novak was hit by a delivery truck heading into the school. Henry died in the woods. Lucy died in the lake. All of them returned and seemed to return for someone. A heartsick mother, a boy with cancer, and an orphan who kept a murderer from killing countless others. But why do we disappear? She asks aloud, absently rubbing the firm shape of her arm. She's starting to suspect that she returns to the lake and had always been there. Is it true for the others too? Are they hovering in some mirror image of this world when they're gone? She needs to find Henry. She needs to ask when he feels the most solid and permanent, and whether he feels the polar opposite right before he vanishes. but she needs to do it without giving away that she feels the best when Colin is only barely escaping death. It turns out this time he's easy to find, reading on a bench beneath a large naked maple near the arts building. When Henry sees her, he stands, shouting her name and gesturing for her to join him. They climb the stairs and walk through the massive doors together, right as the sky opens and the snow begins to fall. "Where's Alex?" she asks. Henry gestures to the quad at their backs.
"English. I'm tired of the history class I've been sitting in on this semester. It's not like I remember anything about the past, but I still feel like I've heard it before."
With a wink, he tugs on her hand and she follows him into the auditorium, down the long center aisle, and into the deep orchestra pit. Although their footsteps echo in the small quasi-cave, it's easy to tell that they're completely alone. They'd be able to hear a pin drop on the stage. "I have to tell you something," she says, pulling at the sleeves of her shirt. "I know how you died, or at least I know who killed you."
"Oh,"
he says.
"Oh. I was murdered too?"
"Yeah. Well, maybe manslaughter is a better word. You were hit by a hunter's stray bullet. I think you were visiting the area on a break from college, and that's when you were shot." Henry stands, takes a few steps away before sitting down again, and Lucy bites back a smile at his familiar ignorance. If Colin hadn't told her about her death, she would probably still be in the dark about it all too. Henry looks up to the ceiling, pauses, and then blinks back to Lucy.
"I always half worried that I'd have that last piece of information, and boom, the sky would open up and I'd be set free or sent back or whatever it is we're waiting for."
"That's why Colin didn't tell me how I died at first. He worried it would be the thing that would send me away for good." Lucy shivers, hating the ticking time bomb sensation beneath her skin, that bleak unknown. What will be the thing that sends her away? She hesitates. "But I think there's something about this school, like it traps us somehow. Everyone I know of who died here died on what was technically school grounds. I think there have been others. Maybe there are others here now."
"Have you seen someone?"
She shakes her head. "No, but Colin's mother swore she saw the ghost of her dead daughter Caroline. She drove them off a bridge, and I wonder if she thought she figured out a way for the family to be together again. Colin barely survived the accident. What if his mother was seeing her daughter? What if we're just ghosts and we're just here?"
"Without a purpose?"
Lucy nods. "Without a purpose. Haunting. Stuck." Henry doesn't seem to like this idea, shaking his head sharply.
"If Caroline were a guardian like us, no way would she have let her mother over a bridge."
Unease tightens Lucy's chest. "I guess." He stares at her in his intense Henry way, as if he can see her thoughts hovering beneath her skin.
"How's Colin lately?"
he asks. "He's good," she says, not adding what a miracle that is.
"What else is on your mind, little sis?"
Henry turns his chair so he's facing her, elbows resting on his knees. "Do you sometimes feel stronger than other times?" she asks.
"What do you mean by stronger? You mean more solid?"
She nods, picking at a thread on her sleeve. "I know this is personal, but sometimes Colin can barely touch me, and other times I feel like..." Lucy remembers the picture of Colin at prom, his hands resting on a human girl's curves. "Like he can grab onto me, but I don't think I understand what I do to make it happen. I wish I knew so I could do it more."
"I have no good advice because it doesn't ever seem to change for me,"
Henry says apologetically, and then he growls, giving her a playfully dirty look.
"Lucky."
"But when Alex touches you, can he, touch you?" As if on cue, Alex walks into the auditorium. His boots clomp down the center aisle and down the steps into the pit before he collapses into a chair next to Henry. He looks back and forth between them, the bruises beneath his eyes almost black in the shadows.
"What's up?"
Henry reaches down and pulls Alex's legs across his lap.
"Lucy asked if you like to touch me."
She groans and buries her face in her hands. "That is not what I asked. I asked whether you can touch him. I don't need a testimonial." Alex grins.
"Yeah, but he feels like he's covered in static."
Henry watches Lucy for a beat before asking,
I'm sure you've already considered this, but what's going on when you feel strongest?
She thinks back to when she's noticed it, at the lake, when Colin leaves for a ride, but also when Colin got back from the hospital. She wishes she could pinpoint a mood or even an event. I notice it when we're outside together, or when he's riding his bike. I thought it was about him being happy, but then I felt it also when he was recovering.
Even if he was recovering, I think he was probably happy to be alive, in his bedroom with his hot girlfriend, so I wouldn't rule out your theory.
Lucy ducks her head, grinning at her lap. I guess.
But my theory? You feel strongest when you're on the right path, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing here. Maybe it's when Colin is happiest, maybe it isn't. Pick the one moment you felt strongest, most real, and do that again.
She looks up at the ornate ceiling overhead, painted deep scarlet and gold and decorated with intricate molding. She felt almost solid before Colin chose to go into the lake. Is it wrong, she thinks, to keep this secret from Henry? Wouldn't he want to know that he could be with Alex like this?
I mean,
Henry says, breaking into Lucy's internal debate,
I think I feel stronger every day, and Alex is still in remission. It tells me that whatever I'm doing for him is right.
That makes up Lucy's mind for her. She can never tell Henry what she's letting Colin do in the lake. Okay.
My point is, look at Colin. Watch him. If you do something to make him happy, you should feel that strength inside you build. If the strength is from something else, you'll notice. I saw your name on some chemistry plaques in the science building,
he says with a wide grin.
Go do some experiments.
She stands, but decides to start right away. Henry, what color is my hair? He gives her a tilt of his head before breaking into soft laughter.
Not the strangest thing you've asked me, but okay, I'll bite. It's brown.
Chapter 30. Him. It's as cold as hell, and Colin cups his hands around his mouth and breathes, trying to warm them up. The wind whips around the side of the library, chilling him through a thermal, 2 T-shirts, a beanie, and his favorite jacket. Colin shrinks farther into the warmth of his hood and rocks slightly, forward and back on his skateboard, watching Jay buzz his bike down the long flight of stairs. Huge piles of dirty snow line both sides of the stairway, and the sky looks heavy and swollen, like it's ready to crack open and fall all around them. The de-icer scattered along the sidewalk pops and crunches beneath Colin's wheels as he rides over to Jay.
I thought it was supposed to warm up. Why is it so damn cold?
Jay grumbles. Colin doesn't answer, not wanting to think about what will happen when the lake begins to thaw. Instead, he relishes the freezing temperatures, the way each breath burns cold in his lungs, and how the other students rush by, practically sprinting up the stairs to get inside.
Thank God we're not at the lake today,
Jay says, teeth chattering.
We'd both be freezing our balls off, literally.
Colin laughs. You're not the one that ends up naked and wet.
Yeah, I'm the one sitting on the side of a frozen lake for an hour while you're having all the fun.
Colin snorts at Jay's use of the word fun. Their idea of a good time has never made much sense to anyone else, but with Jay, it seems perfectly normal to characterize jumping into a freezing lake in January as fun.
Think she'll want to do it again?
Jay adds.
She got up and left kind of suddenly today.
No clue. Colin exhales loudly into the cold, the condensation forming a small cloud in front of him. He remembers how, as kids, he and Jay used to think they were cool and pretend they were puffing on invisible cigarettes. He knows the tiny particles in his breath freeze when they meet the icy air, moving from a gas to a denser liquid and solid state, forming ice crystals before dissolving back into invisible particles. He sort of hates that this reminds him of Lucy, like it's some giant metaphor for what will happen when the days become dry and warm in the spring, and there's nothing left in the air to hold her together. Is it possible she'll vanish along with the cold? Jay pops his wheel and leans against the railing.
So that's it then? We're done? Just when we're getting it down? I don't know, Colin answers. She says she doesn't want me to, but God, I still can't believe it worked. I mean, for all of my doubts, have you ever really thought about what you're doing? You're having an out-of-body experience and making out with a ghost. Never mind how insane that is. It's like you're cheating death call. Again! It's totally awesome. Do not say it like that in front of Lucy, Colin says. He climbs the stairs and looks out across the quad. He hated that phrase growing up, cheating death, as if he were somehow more life-savvy than his parents and managed to pull an ace out of his sleeve at the last minute, leaving him alive but his parents dead. I'm not cheating anything. People get into cars every day, get on planes, get into boats. People hike and hang glide and ski down ridiculous mountains. Enough people have done those things and survived that we don't even think twice when we start the ignition on our car and head out on Route 7 with the drunk and methed-out truckers barreling down there every day. But what if what I'm doing isn't any more dangerous than skiing a black diamond? You don't know, Jay. No one does it, so you think it's wild. Maybe it isn't. Jay is nodding almost the entire time Colin is ranting, and he puts his hands up in the air when he's done. I get it. Like, at first I was doing this only because it felt like I never saw you anymore. But now I think it's cool. Leave it to you to find the fun in freezing your nuts off. Colin stands on his board and kicks off the concrete, crouching and jumping upward as he leaps, popping the tail so the board leaves the ground. Even being as sore as he is, there's that singular moment of being airborne where his head clears and the rush of adrenaline eclipses the wind in his ears and the cold on his face. His front truck makes contact, grinding the rail, and too soon his wheels slam into the concrete. Colin weaves as he struggles to land steadily, gripping the handrail to stop from falling. Nice, Jay says, leaning back against the railing. Borked the landing. Dude, you were hypothermic yesterday. Cut yourself some slack. Colin comes to a stop in front of him. What you said earlier to Lucy about the devil on my shoulder. You know, I'm not looking to get hurt, right? I know. What I think is you have bigger balls than the rest of us. Colin shakes his head. No, listen. You know that feeling when you ride down a skinny from 20 feet up? Or look over a 15-foot drop to flat and think, let's do this? It only works if you never doubt that you can. Standing over that ice, I felt totally safe. Like you're in the zone, Jay says. Exactly. But you have to convince Lucy of that. Yeah. Well, hurry it up, you lucky bastard. I don't have a ghost girl. At least let me live vicariously through you.
Chapter 31. Her. Colin and Jay are near the back of the library, jumping from rails to stairs when Lucy returns. Colin approaches her slowly, as if she might roar, first inspecting her eyes and then reaching for her hand.
Are you mad?
I wasn't mad. She pulls his fingers up to kiss them.
You totally were,
Jay says, coming to a skidding stop next to them.
You just have to trust that we are completely legit. We are adventure experts.
Legit? She shakes her head at him, fighting a smile. Don't do that, Jay. You can't pull off 90s gangster.
Ignore him,
Colin says, pressing a hand to Jay's chest and pushing him away.
I want to make sure you're okay.
I needed to think. I went to talk to Henry.
You told him about the lake?
No, she assures him quickly. I wanted to know why I feel different lately, but it doesn't happen to him. He says he's always the same. Colin's face falls, but he tries to hide his disappointment.
We'll figure it out.
He kisses her cheek before turning to watch Jay grind down the stairs again. In turn, Lucy watches Colin, thinking of what Henry said in the auditorium. She puts her hand on her opposite forearm, feeling the swirling energy beneath. How do you feel today? He glances at her and then back to Jay.
I'm good, I swear. No tingling in my fingers anymore.
He wiggles them playfully in demonstration, but Lucy only feels the tightness in her chest intensify. She's missing something. She's missing something and she can't disappear again. And you really do want to go back to the lake? He turns to her fully now, eyes bright.
Yeah, I do.
Lucy squeezes her arm. Nothing. Colin looks hopeful, bordering on giddy, but she basically feels the same, somewhere in between a solid and a gas. In that strange no-man's land on the verge of the sublime. And it works for you, going into the water alone, having Jay pull you out?
Absolutely.
Colin is practically vibrating with joy now, but Lucy doesn't register any change in herself. It can't be tied only to his happiness. There's something she isn't getting right. Is there a better way to do it?
Other than packing my bed with ice and curling up with me?
He says, laughing.
No, this works.
With him. The idea sparks a realization so fierce it takes her a moment to see beyond it and into the present, where Colin has looked away again. She came back from the lake to be with him, but has been sending him into the water alone. Every time he goes in, she's stronger. She's grown stronger so she can help him. Do you want me to go into the water with you? Her fingers sense the shock of energy surging into place beneath her skin, and she pulls her hand back as if she's plugged her own fingers into a generator. Colin reaches for her shoulders, steadying. She remembers the first day in the dining hall when she saw him and felt starved for details about his face up close, his voice, the feel of his skin on hers. She's been staring at this face at a distance for years. The face that is here, right in front of her, bending close and kissing her as if she's made from blown glass.
Yeah,
he says.
You would do that?
Of course I would.
I'd follow you anywhere, Lucy. You just point the way.
Then let's swim. She's convinced she's smiling with her whole body.
When? When can we go?
She pulls away and looks behind Colin to where Jay is very much not looking at what they're doing. Jay, you free tomorrow? Jay whoops and walks to Colin, bumping fists with him.
I'm in.
It's early, barely dawn. The sky clings weakly to darkness until clouds take their place and begin to drop fluffy snow. Colin and Jay shove peanut butter and jelly sandwiches into their mouths as they do a final check of the supplies.
Still ready?
Colin asks her, heaving a large duffel over his shoulder. Lucy nods, unable to open her mouth for fear she'll admit that she's never felt this strong or this sure of anything. By the time they've arrived and hiked to the shore, the surface is blinding in the early morning sunlight, brilliant white broken up by tiny speckles of fallen brown leaves. Colin's original site of entry, the jagged and thin section of ice in the middle of the lake, shines a brilliant blue, thinner than the ice around it. Now when she sees the sharp edges pointing like arrows to the center, Lucy's memory of Colin falling in is rewritten as something calm and idyllic. Like a reel of images, she sees him going under, his face relieved instead of terrified. She remembers hearing him call her name on the trail, of the first sensation of solid skin to skin, of the way his eyes begged her to not ruin it by pointing out that something was very wrong. Their shoes crunch along the surface, and she hears Colin slip on the ice, and both guys laugh behind her. She doesn't even turn around because she wants in. It's different now that they've decided to go in together. Something heavy pulls inside her chest, a sudden tether to some unseen anchor underwater. She turns and looks at him here and wonders if it's true that she lived in the lake for so long. Did she see him? Is that the hunger that takes over every thought? Beneath the blue ice there's something deeper, a space carved for them. It's all she can do not to pull him down to the opening with her. Her hands are magnets and his skin is iron, and their place together is just below the surface. While Jay unrolls the foil blanket and unpacks his kit of supplies, Lucy strips down to her underwear, unwilling to waste a single second. Boots, pants, sweater, shirt form a rumpled pile at her feet. Her skin is startlingly white in the sun. iridescent and more opaque than she's ever seen it. She looks up at a surprised Colin, his eyes taking in every inch. He stutters a few sounds before fumbling with his own buttons to catch up.
"I've never seen you like this,"
he says, eyes bright, cheeks flushed. Lucy glances at the opening to the water and then back at him. On the count of 3? They dive in, arms stretching out into the clear blue water. It presses against every inch of her, cold and silvery. When they dip under a fallen tree, a fluff of moss waves in their wake, releasing a million tiny bubbles to travel the surface. Lucy doesn't know exactly where she's going, but she's pulled toward the deep end of the lake, under the shadows where the ice is thick and dark. She feels Colin's fingers brush the skin of her ankle, his hair on her thigh as he pushes to catch up and swim beside her. As she turns her head, she sees him trying to hold his breath. Behind them, his unconscious body floats to the surface. "Let go," she says, as clearly as if they were on dry land. She takes his hand and pulls him closer. It's warm in hers, solid and familiar. At the surface, Jay pulls Colin's body out of the lake. "Jay's got you out." He struggles for a moment, a look of fear passing through his wide eyes as he works to let go of the instinct to breathe. Tugging his arm, she leads him forward, where the deep blue slowly morphs darker and darker, turning into a tunnel of soft black.
"Luce,"
Colin whispers from beside her.
"Where are we?"
"I don't know exactly," she says, and she doesn't. Even though being back in the lake feels familiar, she realizes she's never known what this world is. It's not heaven or hell. It's not a different universe. Light shines above, and they both look to the whiteness over them and push up through the crystal blue water until they break the surface on this strange other side. It's unlike anything Lucy has ever seen since her return, but the space is so familiar and tugs at something in the back of her mind, some instinct that she's finding the world she retreats to when she vanishes. There's a brief flash of disappointment. Everything is the same, trees and boulders and the trail, but then Lucy realizes that it's not at all like the shore they just left. Instead, it's a mirror image, a replica of the icy earth above ground, but it's so much more. More color, more light, more reflections on every surface. Entering this world feels like stepping into the center of a diamond. Lucy and Colin climb out of the water onto a shore of sand so crystalline it glimmers in the indirect sun filtered through the trees. Branches of amber, leaves of a silver green so bright Lucy has to blink away, let her eyes adjust. Beside her, Colin is silent, and when she looks to him, she registers that he's watching her reaction, waiting.
"There was something different about that world, something perfect,"
he'd said. He's seen this every other time he's been here, and it's she who's forgotten what it's like, because until now, she didn't go under with him. "You can see this?" she asks, looking up at a sky so blue it almost needs another name. It's the lake reflected, an entire galaxy, a massive ocean in a single glimpse of sky. He nods, taking her hand and pulling her toward the trail, but when she expects him to pull her in the direction of the shed, he surprises her, walking the other way, away from the field and the school buildings and deeper into the woods instead. Beneath their feet, amber leaves crunch like splinters of precious stone. The snow is mesmerizing, winking back 100 shades of blue reflected from the lake and sky. It's like she can see every frozen, glittering crystal that blankets the ground and trees and hills beyond. Lucy's memories come back slowly, giving her mind time to adjust the same way her eyes adjusted to the light. First, recover. And then, see. See the world that must have been her home for the past 10 years. "It's like a reflection," she tells Colin, following his lead at a fork in the trail. "Everything up there is down here, buildings and trees, even the lake. Like Wonderland." She points back at the water behind them, looking like a sapphire planted in a bed of quartz. He must hear the awe in her voice because he stops, turning to face her. She shifts where she stands. "Except people. I mean, I think I've been alone, watching." His dark brows pull together and he whispers,
I hate that.
Not wanting to worry him, she adds, I don't think time passed the same way. I mean, I remember being here, but I don't feel like I was sitting around bored out of my mind for the past 10 years. His face relaxes and she says, I remember looking up, as if I could see everything through a glass. I think I was waiting, and I remember watching you.
Really?
Nodding, Lucy takes his hand and leads him down the trail this time, feeling a pull to go forward, to keep moving. I remember watching you on the hill during a winter social. You and Jay swung from a tree branch and jumped down onto the lake. Colin laughs, shaking his head.
I'd forgotten about that. We were 12. I broke my ankle.
There's a hint of pride in this admission that makes her smile. I saw you right out here the first time, she says, the images unrolling in her head like a reel of film. You were a little scared, but a lot more excited. She grins as she remembers his pink cheeks and smiling face, the way he kept glancing back over his shoulders if he expected to be caught any minute. You two were the only ones who came out here at first, but you didn't seem to be looking for me.
I remember that. Jay dared me to walk out on the ice when we were 7. The joke ended up being on him because he cut himself on the dock and needed a tetanus shot. Man, we got in trouble for that.
Their joined hands swing between them as they continue to walk along the trail. Every few minutes, Colin lifts the back of hers to his mouth, kissing it. His lips are warm. And obviously, it didn't stop you. He grins.
No way. We've grown up hearing stories about this place, about walkers and disappearances, of people claiming to see a girl slip along the shore or hearing voices.
He bends to pick up a leaf, spinning it in front of him.
I mean, it was creepy, yeah, but not everyone bought into it. Just adults discouraging crazy kids from drinking and fornicating at the lake. Made it sound cooler, really.
Lucy snorts and shakes her head. Of course the prospect of danger would make it more appealing to you. And even before I died, I don't think we were supposed to come out here. Too far from the main buildings. Too many ways to get in trouble. They stop walking, and he bends to her, whispering, his smiling kiss covering her lips.
I can think of lots of ways to get in trouble out here.
How long have we been gone? She asks, tilting her head back as Colin kisses a path from her chin to her neck. He mumbles something unintelligible, and she means to ask him what he said, but a bird cuts through the air over his shoulder. A raven. It's beautiful, with wings like shards of ebony. It flies overhead, calling out into the silence before circling back and landing somewhere in front of them. Lucy turns to find it, to point out the hauntingly beautiful bird to Colin, but she freezes, the words lost in a gasp when she realizes how far they've walked. She can see the hulking shape of Ethan Hall behind them in the distance, and ahead of her is the raven, its talons wrapped around the highest arch of the imposing metal gate that surrounds St. Ozana's. But something is different. Instead of feeling an invisible bubble pushing against her chest and sending her back to the trail, she feels like a fish caught on the end of a hook. Pulled. Slowly reeled in. She takes a step forward.
Luce?
Colin asks.
You okay?
I don't know, she says, continuing on, her steps quicker now, purposeful. As she nears the iron fence, she looks up and meets the raven's watchful stare, can see her own reflection in the luminous black of the bird's eyes. Something's different. She hears the crunch of snow as Colin jogs to catch up, feels the beat of a pulse in her hollow veins. When Colin stops at her side, the pull gets stronger. Do you feel that?
Feel what? Lucy, what's going on?
Like suction. Like I'm metal and there's this giant magnet on the other side. You don't feel that? Colin shakes his head, eyes wide as he blinks from Lucy to the gate and back again.
Do you think you can get through?
I don't know. Her mouth is suddenly so dry, drier than she can ever remember. For the first time since waking, she wants something to drink, can almost imagine the feel of cold water as she swallows.
Touch it,
she hears Colin whisper.
Lucy, touch it.
She licks her lips, shaking as she lifts her arm, fingers trembling as they find the icy metal. There's no resistance. She holds her breath, watching as her hand passes between two of the ornate balusters and to the other side. "Oh my God," she gasps. "Oh my God." There's the faintest hint of a tan. Blue veins form a map across her palm and up her wrist. There's a scar, freckles, imperfections. She forms a fist, feeling the warmth of her own skin. "Colin!" But he doesn't answer. Colin is gone.
Chapter 32. Him. Sometime during the night, Colin feels Lucy slip into bed behind him. The mattress shifts with her weight as she burrows under the layers of quilts and electric blankets to wrap her arms around his chest. He's not sure how, but Lucy and Jay have managed to move him from the lake to the dorm and up to their room without anyone noticing. He's wearing a set of old flannel pajamas and is in bed beneath a pile of blankets. Jay is gone, so Colin assumes he must have had the first watch. He doesn't remember anything after leaving Lucy's underwater world. "Hi," she says, her voice muffled against his back. "Hey." It comes out as a croak, and he closes his eyes tight against the burn. His throat feels swollen, scorched, as if he ate a meal of solid fire. "Have you been lying here for long?" "No, I got here a few minutes ago. I've been waiting for Dot to go to sleep. She's been down in the common room stirring the same cup of coffee and staring at a blank TV for more than an hour." He doesn't want Dot to see him like this, and the guilt he's been trying to ignore flares inside his chest. "She didn't see you, did she?" "No," Lucy assures him. "She never would have let me get past the stairs." So Dot came to his dorm to be close to him? He rubs his face, groaning quietly. "She's worried. She feels so responsible for me." "Yeah." "I think she knows I'm doing something crazy. She knows about you." He shivers and presses the heating pad closer to his chest. "I thought she might." Lucy ignores the way anxiety burrows into her skin and tucks the blankets more securely around his body. "Are you warm enough?" "Mm-hmm. But if you want to seduce me, you might have to leave on my socks," he says, trying to lighten the mood. He doesn't want to think about the downside to any of this, only wants to feel her curled behind him and remember the world underwater. A fraction of his mind registers how crazy this is, that from the outside looking in, he might even appear suicidal. And with a piercing stab to his chest, he realizes this is how his mother must have felt, doing whatever she could do to have even one more day with her daughter. Colin has never been more positive that his mother wasn't insane after all. She simply wanted her family back. It's early, hours before the sun comes up and the students flood campus, and Colin can hear one of the delivery trucks outside, dropping off supplies at the kitchen. The steady beep as it backs up echoes off the stone buildings and fills the empty quad. "Hey, how'd you two get me up here anyway?" "That would be Jay. Turns out he's excellent at distraction and a lot stronger than he looks." "How is he?" "He's okay," she says, and he feels her shrug slightly. "I mean, he seems to thrive on this kind of thing. I don't get it, but I'm glad he's like that. What he's doing for us is amazing." "I know." "I wonder if we'd be able to do it without him. I wonder if I could get you out of the water somehow." She pauses, watching him. "I wonder if that's why I'm so strong now." Colin is silent in response to that. He's given this some thought. If the lake is where Lucy was before she found him, and where she goes when she disappears, Colin wonders if he could simply go find her there. He's not exactly sure how they got to the other side because his head is still a bit foggy, but he likes to think if he had to, he could find it alone. "Tell me what happened," he says. "It's true, isn't it?" You got past the gate. You remember that? He nods. She shivers beside him. Other than finding you, I don't remember ever feeling so drawn to something. I saw my hand, and it looked alive, Colin. I felt like I needed to be on the other side of the gate. Do you think that's how it works? We need to get you off campus, like unlocking some puzzle? I don't know. Somehow I don't think it's that simple. It can't be. Maybe you're overthinking it. She doesn't answer, just presses her cheek into the back of his shirt, reassuring herself that he's warm and really here. It's where you were before you came back? He asks. I think so. I feel like I'd been pacing inside a cage, looking out through the lake, waiting to come be with you. And you think it's where you go when you disappear? Her arms tighten around him when he says that. Yeah, but I don't plan on disappearing again. Maybe not, he thinks, but at least I know where to find you. Colin relaxes. This knowledge makes the prospect of the approaching spring much less terrifying.
Chapter 33. Her. The deep purple water sky trembles above them, with stars made out of a million of the smallest bubbles. The illusion of earth and lake bottom turns into the soft, inviting blackness. An instinctive burst of energy courses through Lucy's system, and she pushes forward, faster.
God, I can't wait to get there, Colin says, floating behind her. I hope we can stay longer this time. I want to try the gate again.
Lucy doesn't respond, simply kicks her feet through the icy clear water. It's all she's been able to think about, how her skin looked like real flesh, that she felt the sting of the cold air on her fingertips. But she's worried there's something they haven't considered yet. It's strange to not be able to see, but to know exactly where to turn, like the directions are embedded in her muscles. Does he feel it too? Can you find it? She asks, stilling.
What?
He stops next to her, his arm pressed along the length of hers. Do you remember how to get there? Could you find it on your own? He looks behind them to where the water has simply emptied into blackness, and then forward again.
Not like this. I can't see anything. I don't think this is how we got here before.
Never mind, she says, grabbing his hand to pull him closer. I guess it's a feel thing. Maybe after you've been here a few more times.
Maybe,
he says, though he sounds unsure. A few seconds later, she instinctively turns. A light in the distance grows brighter and brighter. It takes a moment for their eyes to adjust, but everything is exactly as they left it. A canopy of crystalline leaves sparkles above them. The sun is a trapezoidal beam of yellow sweeping across the frozen shore. Orange, blue, red, and purple flowers bloom in small pops before they freeze, leaving waves of stained glass color in their wake. A light snow is falling, and Colin holds out his hand. Intricate lacy snowflakes land in his palm. She grins at him, watching him look around. It's everything at once, vibrant color and glistening ice. They can smell the wet earth beneath the snow and hear the water freeze across the lake. It becomes disorienting and overwhelming, and she can see the moment it becomes too much for him when he sits on the bank and covers his eyes. She sits next to him, resting her hand on his bent knee. Are you okay?
I love you,
he says quietly, slowly blinking up to the sky. She breaks into a grin so wide it takes her several seconds to respond. I love you back. He picks up her hand and massages her fingers.
I thought I knew what love was before.
I didn't. She leans down, kisses the back of his hand. Colin looks over at her, his eyes as hungry as she feels when she pushes him onto his back in the snow. Cold? She asks, moving over him. He shakes his head, hands running up her sides, lifting her shirt up and off in a single movement.
Not even a little.
Her hair falls in a curtain around them, and he pushes it back, kissing her like she's a normal girl, and he can grip and feel and not worry about breaking. Lucy wonders if time moves down here at all because, before she knows it, her clothes are gone and Colin is smiling down at her, snowflakes in his hair and clinging to his lashes, disappearing into the skin of his bare shoulders. He bites his lip as he moves above her, fingers memorizing every inch and finding where they come together. Frost gathers on their skin and disappears as quickly. Light explodes behind her eyes, and Colin holds her shaking hands with his. He says her name against her mouth, that he loves her, that even having all of her will never be enough. He groans into her neck, and when they still, his heart silent against her chest, she can hear the sound of feathery snow falling around them.
How's it possible to feel like I want to be here with you, but I shouldn't be?
He asks. They're on the trail again, hand in hand as they make their way toward the front of the school. Lucy tried to say no, to distract him, but there wasn't any conviction behind her words. I don't know, she says, but it's how I feel bringing you here, too. It feels selfish.
Lucy,
he says, and she watches a cloud of anxiety pass through his eyes.
I think this is what we've been missing, don't you?
She looks up, watches how fast the sun seems to move across the snowy sky. She can feel it with every step, the need to keep going, to escape. They stop with the iron gate in front of them, its hulking mass like a scar blooming out of the pristine snow. Lucy notices Colin rubbing the spot over his sternum.
Jay's bringing me back. My chest hurts,
he says.
We don't have much time, Luce.
He reaches for her then, pulling her to him with a smile that doesn't completely fill his eyes. His mouth is soft but insistent, wet and warm. She turns, a sense of longing filling her chest like a warm bath, a tug behind her ribs pushing her toward whatever is on the other side of the fence. The same feeling of anticipation coats her skin, and she reaches out to lift the latch. The old gate groans, the hinges squeak, and Lucy steps back as it swings open. She twists her fingers with his, and as if acting on instinct, steps through first. She hears the gasp before she's even turned around. He's smiling. Tear tracks line his face, and he's looking at her as if she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen.
Your hair,
he says. She looks down. It's brown, every shade of brown at once.
And your eyes.
He's laughing now, disbelief etched in every part of his face.
They're green.
Come here, she says, and pulls him forward. She's on the old trail again. Her feet dig easily into the snowy earth, but she almost trips on a bank of snow when she catches sight of Jay, curled in half and throwing up the contents of his stomach several feet away from where Colin's body lies. Colin's lips are blue, and when she gets closer, she can see that his eyes are open, but hollow and staring straight up at the heavy gray sky. His chest rises and falls in shallow pants, but when he hears her feet crunching across the ice, he turns his head to her and tries to smile. His breathing grows more ragged. His eyes roll closed.
Get away from him!
Jay screams, wiping his mouth on his sleeve and stumbling to Colin, shoving Lucy out of the way.
I just got him back, Lucy. Stay away from him.
Jay's eyes are squeezed shut. He refuses to look at her. What happened, Jay? Why is he so bad?
I don't know,
he mumbles.
It's not working.
Still, he keeps his eyes down, frantically shoving hand warmers under the blankets and against Colin's cold skin. Dread trickles along her arms. Are you afraid of me?
When he comes back, you look fucking terrifying,
he says, voice shaking in the cold. He points without looking.
Grab that bag. It has gloves.
She walks to the bag numbly, Jay's words echoing over and over. He's said it before. When he comes back, you look terrifying. It's the same reaction Joe had when he fell through his porch. He told Colin she looked like a demon. Lucy feels the high of her time with Colin underwater begin to evaporate. Here, she says, carefully handing Jay the gloves. What can I do? Is he going to be okay? Her voice is so flat, sounds so indifferent. She squeezes her eyes shut, unable to get rid of the image of Colin in front of her, smiling up into the sun right before he slipped away.
He's been under for more than an hour, Lucy. He's non-responsive with a pulse of 30. 30! His normal resting pulse is 64. Do you even know what that means? He might die.
Just let me closer. He'll be better when I'm there. She's so sure of it that at first she doesn't register that when she puts her hand on his arm, the small monitor at his side lets out a steady, flat beep.
Lucy!
Jay gasps, pulling at her arm and staring where his hand wraps firmly around her flesh.
Go away, go away, go away,
he whispers over and over. She realizes she was completely wrong when she assumed a silent Jay is a panicked Jay. This Jay is panicked, and he's unable to stop whispering to himself. He is a rubber band pulled taut, about to snap. Let's get him to the dorm, she says. I think I can help you carry him. I feel so strong.
No, don't touch him again. I don't think you're helping.
Of course I'm helping. Jay, we have to get him out of here. You can't carry him alone. Sirens wail in the distance, and Jay meets her eyes. Apology and fear and anger and fresh tears brimming inside.
I called 911. I didn't know what else to do.
The ambulance crunches along the trail, coming to a skidding stop. Paramedics burst from every door, rushing to Colin's body, pulling away the blankets and heat pads, checking his vitals. They wrap him in some type of bag and pepper Jay with questions. How did he go in? How long was he under? Has he said anything? Jay answers, wooden. No one even looks at Lucy. She watches as the two men lift Colin onto a stretcher. His hand reaches out weakly and she waves. I'll meet you there. Somehow, she thinks. Her thoughts grow panicked and jumbled as the ambulance starts up, beeping loudly in the echoing quiet of the lake as it backs down the trail. How can she possibly follow him? She runs toward the school and in the distance sees Joe and Dot begin jogging to the parking lot. Brake lights flash on a shiny blue pickup truck as Joe unlocks the doors with a remote. Without thinking, Lucy sprints to the truck, crouching behind the back gate. Just as the two passengers shut their doors, Lucy throws her body over the side into the open bed. Gravel spits up behind them as they peel out of the lot, chasing the ambulance down the dirt road leading out of the school. It's only when they pass through the iron gates that Lucy realizes she hasn't been bounced back to the trail. Ahead of them, the ambulance wails down the 2-lane highway. But why now? What's changed? She looks up to the flashing lights down the road, to where her heart lies, strapped into the back of an ambulance. Where you go, I go, she thinks. Always. 18-year-old male, severe hypothermia, BP 90/54. Current temp is 94.8, respiratory rate 14. Lactated ringers pushed at 150 milliliters an hour. EKG stable with normal sinus rhythm. Chest x-ray results are here for your review. Blood work was sent to the lab for stat processing. Lucy pushes her way into the corner about 10 feet from where a physician is looking down at Colin's chart while one of the paramedics ticks off the vitals. Lucy has managed to walk into the triage area without anyone saying a single word to her. The attending physician listens to the account of the scene. The kids were playing on the lake. Colin went in. They had equipment to revive him, and it seemed intentional.
Isn't this the kid they were talking about on the news? Around Christmas?
Colin Novak from St. O's.
Yeah.
The doctor gently pushes hair off of Colin's forehead.
That's him.
Lucy turns as they wheel him away and through 2 wide doors. She wanders the halls until she can't take the beeping and antiseptic smell and chatting nurses. She's glad for them that the stress of the ER becomes as tolerable as with any other job, but their conversation about the recently passed Valentine's Day is too far removed from the updates on Colin she wants to be hearing. She wants news about him blared through the intercom. She wishes she were a ghost like on television, only as solid as a hologram. She'd be able to walk through walls and into any room, peek her head through and watch the color return to Colin's skin. On her 7th circuit of the halls, she peers into the family waiting room. Jay is gone, but Dot remains and stares, unseen, out of a large window that overlooks the parking lot. There's no one here to comfort her, and there's no one here to comfort Lucy. She steps into the dark, silent room, ready to share her loneliness. Dot is so lost in her misery that she doesn't even look up when Lucy walks in. She simply stares down at the book she clearly isn't even reading. Lucy wants to talk to her, to explain what happened and assure her that Colin is okay, and they've almost got this whole mystery figured out. But the words turn into dust in her throat. Instead, she sits down on a couch in a dark corner and waits. Over the next 20 minutes, Dot asks the receptionist to let her see Colin 4 times, paces the room 7 times, sits and stares at her book the rest of the time, but never once does she turn the page. Dot is tall. Some might even describe her as formidable, with surprisingly young skin and hair that has been left alone. Silver dominates the deep brown. It's bundled back in a messy ponytail, exposing her large blue eyes. Even with her striking physical presence, Lucy can tell Dot feels small, helpless. She's a mass of constant movement and anxiety. And then Dot stills. Her hands freeze midway up her thigh as she's rubbing them worriedly, and she turns to look at Lucy. To her horror, in Dot's face, Lucy sees a mixture of understanding and fear.
I remember you, you know.
Her soft voice carries a bite of accusation.
You're the girl I saw in the dining room covered in dirt.
She lifts a shaking hand and pushes a loose thread of hair behind her ear.
But I remember you from before that, too.
Lucy feels the layers to the statement and looks away before nodding, unable to face the worry and accusation she can see in every line of Dot's expression. Many minutes pass before Dot speaks again.
Say your name.
Lucy. Dot says her name again and then adds, voice shaking,
Lucia Gray.
Yes, ma'am. Something cold and leaden thunders in Lucy's limbs, brought on by Dot's expression. Fear. Beneath it, anger.
You care about him?
Dot asks, leaning forward to get a better look at Lucy in the dim room. Lucy nods again, but turns her eyes to the floor.
Tell me.
I love him.
That isn't what I meant.
I'm sorry, she says, finally looking at Dot's face. Yes, I care about him. I want him to be safe. I don't know anything else about what I'm doing here other than I'm supposed to protect him. Humming, Dot closes her book on her lap and stares at the wall. Lucy can feel her unease rise like a curtain between them.
You care about him enough to let him take blankets and resuscitation equipment to the lake?
I didn't ever want anything bad to happen to him, Lucy begins, but her words ring false with the sound of hospital equipment behind them. We were trying to figure out how to bring me back.
Bring you back?
Dot lets out a confused breath and shakes her head.
I always knew it would catch up with him eventually. Just didn't think it'd be so soon, or he'd be the one chasing it.
Before Lucy can ask what she means, the nurse steps into the room with Joe, beckoning to Dot. With one last lingering glance to where Lucy sits in her stiff chair, Dot leaves her alone in the waiting room. Lucy waits 5 minutes before following. She'll never believe she's worthy of being Colin's guardian. It's what she should have told Dot. She should have told her she'll do anything to deserve him, and to tell her what that is. Dot's in his room now, speaking in soothing tones as Joe walks down to the end of the hall, head down, tired eyes on the shiny linoleum floor as he disappears into the elevator. Lucy perches in a vinyl seat just outside Colin's door, waiting until she can see him, feel him, apologize.
Colin?
Dot says, apology thick in her voice.
I met your girl. You met Lucy?
His voice is worse than she could have imagined, raw and weak.
Yeah, sweetie.
She's silent for a beat, and Lucy hears a quiet tapping sound as if she's holding his hand and patting it reassuringly.
I don't know what's going on. I don't need to. But I do need you to promise me this is the last time you're going near that lake.
The only sound Lucy hears for a long time is the steady beep of his monitors and the garbled voices and laughter from the nurse's station. Finally, Colin clears his throat.
Dot.
He sounds like he's swallowed crushed glass.
I can't promise that.
I knew you'd say that, but I'm afraid I need you to promise anyway.
It's not what you think. I know what I'm doing. I don't know what to think, baby. All I know is this was no accident. I don't trust that girl.
Lucy hears sheets rustle, and Colin is saying something that sounds like,
"Please don't cry." "Are you trying to kill yourself?"
Dot asks.
"What?" "Dot, no. No. I'm trying to help her come back. It's making a difference. She's stronger and I—" "No more, Colin, because it will kill you. You understand that, don't you? You're meant to be here, not there. You can't bring her back, baby. You aren't meant to die."
Lucy feels her heart begin to beat to the rhythm of the monitor in his room. The familiar tick of a clock seems to pulse beneath her skin. Minutes pass. "Don't make me leave him. Don't make me leave him." She remembers the feeling of his hands on her arms, the soft exhale of his kiss against her shoulder. She's traced the constellation of freckles across his nose, felt the cold press of his lip ring. She remembers his first tentative touch and his most recent fervored ones. She's silently begging him to not let her go, not to promise, never promise, and hating herself at the same time.
Okay, Dot. Don't cry, please."
He exhales in a quiet, defeated hiss.
"I promise I'll stop."
The ticking stops, and Lucy closes her eyes, feeling like she's unraveling at the seams.
"I promise I won't go back into the lake."
Chapter 34. Him. Colin sleeps for what feels like days. His eyelids are like sandpaper when they finally open. The room is too bright. Daylight streams in through an opening in familiar curtains, washing the foot of the bed in blinding yellow sun. There's a vase of flowers on a table, his duffel bag, and a haphazard stack of school books on the couch. "There you are," Dot says, standing from a chair by the door. She tucks a well-worn paperback into her bag and crosses the room toward him. She seems lighter, happy, and for a single oblivious moment, Colin almost forgets why. "I guess you really needed your sleep, didn't you?" Her smooth hand touches his cheek and tries to make some sense of his hair, like she's done 100 times in his life. "What time is it?" he asks, wincing at the feel of words in his throat. It takes some effort, but he manages to sit up a little. Dot brings a green bendy straw to his lips, and he drinks. His empty stomach revolts, clenching tightly. The room shifts and weaves around him. "Around 11. Now, lie back down," she tells him. 11 a.m.? he asks, wide-eyed. She smiles. "Yes, 11 a.m., Friday, February 18th. Colin tries to remember what day it should be, feeling sick when he finally does. He's been asleep for 2 days. "Where's Lucy?" he asks, heart racing, the color of dread bleeding into the edges of everything around him. "I don't know, honey," Dot answers, the relief slipping from her face. "I haven't seen her since the night they brought you in." Colin is released from the hospital the next day. Joe and Dot don't talk much to him or each other on the drive back to campus, and for a long while there's only the sound of tires on asphalt to break the silence. It's a strange tension, and one that Colin has no idea how to reframe, even with his side of the story. Joe and Dot couldn't understand what he has been through even if they tried. Colin's pretty sure they both think he has some sort of a death wish by now, that he was trying to hurt himself on purpose. He's glad Joe doesn't ask, though. It's almost impossible for most people to understand how much space there is between craving danger and craving death. When Joe finally does speak, the conversation is short. Joe asks how he's feeling, lets Colin know that he won't be returning to school for a few days, and that he'll be staying with him until further notice. Colin grunts something resembling a response in the appropriate places. He's disappointed, but not surprised. He hasn't seen Lucy since he was pulled from the ice, and doesn't hold much hope that she's waiting for him in his room, even less that she's at school or the shed. Somehow he knows she's disappeared again. It's almost like he can feel her absence in every particle of everything that they pass. The trees look emptier. The air looks bleak. He closes his eyes and imagines her in the blackness just before she breaks the surface. He can see her on the trail beneath the mirror sky and wonders if she managed to get through the gate without him. At first, Colin tells himself that he needs to be patient and wait. She wouldn't stay away, not now. So he does as he's told. He goes to class and comes home right after. He spends an entire afternoon talking to a counselor because Dot says it's important to her. He stays away from any trouble. He waits. But the storm is always there, gathering. He feels it spread like the wind that creeps across the lake, the icy fingers that close around his lungs until he can barely breathe, until he's nearly frantic with the need to find her. Days turn into weeks, and the ice begins to thin. And though it sounds cliché, he feels like he's drowning, melting into the lake right along with it. He does his best not to let his growing frustration show, not to take it out on Dot or Joe, both of whom now watch him like a hawk. Colin wonders what they've said to Jay, who seems to have been scared straight, immediately shooting down any discussion of going to the lake. 3 weeks after he woke up to find Lucy gone, Colin knows he can't sit still anymore. He makes a show of cleaning his room, studying at Joe's kitchen table, and volunteering to help Dot finish up dessert prep. The sky has grown dark, and Joe raises an eyebrow when Colin settles into the couch beside him. A few distant shouts carry in from outside as students start making their way across campus. "It's good to see you busy," Joe says. He drinks from a steaming mug before setting it carefully on the table at his side. "It feels good," Colin answers, and they're silent for a few minutes, Joe's eyes on the evening paper and Colin's on the TV. "I was actually wondering if I could get a suspended sentence tomorrow, maybe get off campus for a few hours." There's hope in his voice, something he knows has been noticeably absent the last few weeks. Joe eyes him skeptically. "And what exactly would you be doing?" "Nothing," he says, easing off a bit and trying to sound nonchalant. "See a movie, maybe stop by one of the bike shops in town." He shrugs for added effect. "It'd be nice to get away." Joe considers him. Colin can almost see the release of tension in Joe's shoulders, his relief at hearing him talk about things that are so normal. "Actually, I think that sounds like a great idea," Joe says, surprising him. "Your grades are good. You haven't been in any trouble." He glances at Colin over the top of his paper, expression serious now. "But back here by dark. No exceptions." "Yes, sir," he says, smiling. Joe shakes his head, but Colin doesn't miss the way his lips twitch at the corners. "I'll get you your keys in the morning." Colin leans back, happy, his eyes on the game, but his thoughts somewhere else completely. Slush covers the walkway leading to the door of the infirmary, and Colin laughs quietly, realizing this is the first time he's climbed these steps without A, the aid of someone else, or B, blood gushing from some part of his body. He lets the door close softly behind him and wipes his feet on the rug, walking toward the sound of movement at the end of the hall. It's too quiet, and his sneakers squeak on the linoleum, the sound bouncing off the walls around him. Colin's been here so many times he knows exactly where he's going, knows what each piece of equipment is for, and which room has the bed with the spring that pokes you in the back. He also knows Maggie won't be thrilled to see him, and that his footprints are probably mucking up her clean floor. Right on cue, she peeks her head out of an open doorway, scowling in his direction. "You better be bleeding," she says, looking behind him. He smiles. "I'm not."
What are you doing here? He follows her into the room where she's changing out one set of sheets for another. A kid he's never seen before sleeps in a bed on the other side. I need to ask you about Lucy, he whispers. She glances to the sleeping boy and back to him. I don't think so. Maggie picks up the basket of sheets and walks into the next room. He follows again. Please. His voice cracks, begging. She won't look at him. There's a hardness in her expression, something that tells him she's building a wall to keep tears from leaking out. Please. After a long pause, she finally meets his eyes. Why today? Because I can't find her. She watches him, eyes narrowed. Heard you did something pretty stupid. Stupid enough it landed you in the hospital. Stupid enough you're lucky to even be here. Colin tries to laugh it off. What's new, right? Maggie clearly doesn't find it funny. You've done some stupid stuff, but this... He nods, guilt and shame warring with the unrelenting need to find Lucy. You heard the details, huh? Ain't nobody around here who didn't hear. Maggie, you knew about Lucy. When will you tell me how? She keeps working, and Colin rounds the bed, taking the other side of the new sheet and fitting it over the mattress. Almost died and didn't learn a damn thing. Fool-headed child, she mutters. Colin waits. It's not exactly like he can argue with her. There's only one way this can end, Colin. You know that, right? I can't believe that, Maggie. I don't. Of course you don't. She sighs, defeat written in the slump of her shoulders. Maggie straightens, looking out into the hall before closing the wide door. You're lucky I don't kick your skinny butt out of here. Colin tastes salt water and the thick, choking tide of sobs, but pushes it down. Thanks. Perched on the edge of the bed, she swallows and says, I met Alan here when I was 19. I wasn't always the person I should have been, Colin. I was young and stupid and did a lot of stuff I'm not proud of. I was on my own, trying to keep up with nursing school and homework and a full-time job. Right before I started here, a friend noticed I was having a hard time and gave me something to get me through it all. She pulls a pillowcase into her lap, tugs on a loose thread. Not long after, I was walking from the dorm to my car, and he was there. He was sweeping the sidewalk, and he looked up, smiled like I was a rainbow after the storm. I saw him like no one else did. Saw those crazy eyes and felt something I'd never felt before. He was mine. You know what I mean? Colin nods, knowing exactly the feeling she describes. He found me for a reason, she continues. I was alone at this big school and needed someone. He was so lonely. No family, no friends, practically invisible to everyone here. He took care of me, saw me stressed and understood why I needed something to get me through the day. Colin nods and isn't even embarrassed to realize he's crying. And when I realized what he was, she laughs, shaking her head. When I found out that he died, here, that he haunted this place, I could handle that. But the disappearing, that's what broke me, she whispers. How long has your Lucy been gone? 24 days. She pushes a skeptical exhale through her lips, shaking her head. 24 days you get used to. 24 days you can live with. Bile rises in Colin's throat at the idea of even one more day. Did he disappear because you were unhappy? He asks. Don't know why he left. I went to rehab, and he didn't visit me once. I started using again, and he was back.
telling me it was okay, that I needed it, almost encouraging. First time he was gone for 6 days. Second time, I didn't see him for 43, and that wasn't even the longest. Colin wants to move somehow, to release this discomfort that's burrowed into his stomach. He paces to the other side of the room, pushing his hands into his gut, hoping something inside him untangles. How long? 2 years. I had 2 years with him, and then he was gone for 2. I'd been clean for a while, but going through a rough patch. Maggie pinches her eyes closed, takes a deep breath. I took some pills from the infirmary. When I got back to my room, there he was, sitting at the kitchen table like he didn't have a care in the world, like I'd gone out for a cup of coffee, and he'd been waiting for me to come back. But it had been too long, Colin. I couldn't do it. 2 years? Terror wraps a cold fist around his lungs, pulling down, and the sensation of caving in on himself takes over. He would chase Lucy anywhere. He doesn't know how to function without her anymore. Maggie stays put in front of him, but she weaves, his vision blurry. He still felt the memory of the night before. Meanwhile, I'd lived 2 years, going to school, coming home, looking for him, trying to stay clean, going to school, coming home, looking for him again, every day, for 2 years. And there he was. My life was falling apart, and he looked like he'd won the lottery. So, I left him. I wish I'd told him to stay away long before that. I wish I'd told him to leave me alone the first time he came back. Colin doesn't know if he could do that. He doesn't think he could ever give Lucy up. He doesn't realize he said it out loud until Maggie responds, her voice deep with sadness. You'll get there. You'll find that point. Maybe it will be the first time she's gone for more than a month. Maybe it will be that time she comes home for an hour and then is gone again for days. Or maybe she'll get her way, and you'll do her dirty work for her. He can hardly process what she's saying, but forces himself to speak anyway. Did he disappear for good? Her eyes close, and a few tears escape. I don't know. But when did you last see him? Pretty soon after he came back. There were stories, always have been. I didn't figure out till later that the dead around here are bound by the gates. I stopped looking. She straightens, shaking her head and reaching for a tissue in the front pocket of her scrubs. I don't know what takes more strength, staying through it or letting him go. I don't know. I just don't. A phone rings somewhere and the bubble pops. The bleak light seems to give way again to bright fluorescent and echoing silence. She walks past him, returning to nurse mode and telling him to take care, but he stops her with a hug, thanking her, squeezing her tight. The entire way to Hillcrest Cemetery, Colin reminds himself that seeing Lucy's tombstone is not the same thing as seeing Lucy. But he's got a lot to talk out, and right now, she's the only one he knows will understand it all. He parks and steps onto a trail that leads through stretches of manicured lawn, which, in the coming months, will shift from sleeping brown to vibrant and green. He looks down a familiar narrow path through a thatch of bare, spindly trees. The graves that way lie under an enormous oak tree. The earth is covered with acorns in the fall and dappled sunshine in the summer. Even when the sun is shining and the grass is brilliant and alive, Colin feels a strange vacuum there. He hasn't been down that trail, the one that leads to his parents' and sisters' graves, in more than 2 years. But the pull to find Lucy is different. It's a hot urgency in his chest. Following the map, he continues straight and turns at a fork to a plot sectioned off from the others and surrounded by an iron fence. He's not sure what he's expecting to find, but his heart beats heavier in his chest with each step, his boots making squelching sounds in the soggy ground. He matches the markers to the map as he goes. Mary Georgie Stevenson, loving wife, mother, sister, 1923 to 1984. Jeremiah Hansen, our father, 1901 to 1976. Harry Hawkins, cherished son, 1975 to 1987. Names, words, dates, entire lives summed up in a few lines. And then, in a wide plot encircled with a crooked ornate gate, is a single headstone. It seems strange to see her alone, set away from the other graves, but he realizes the spaces next to her must be empty, waiting for her parents. He stands, hands clenched into fists at his sides, eyes moving over the simple script, the delicate flowers etched deep into polished granite. His fingers itch to touch the letters of her name, to see if they feel as real as she did, to see if there's any of her left here at all. "Hey," he says to the slab of stone. "Lucia Rain Gray, 1981 to 1998. Beloved daughter and friend." He feels irrationally angry at the generic memorial on her tombstone, letting out a few choice curse words before glancing behind him. Still alone, though he's sure he could be heard from clear across the hillside. Seriously? I think they could have done better than that. He shoves his frozen hands deep into his pockets and looks out over the other graves. The cemetery seems to stretch on for miles. There are no trees, no buildings, nothing to stop the wind from tearing through this side, blowing dried flowers down the hillside and away from the intended recipients. It's brutal and cold, but eerily silent. Colin sits down on the damp, scratchy grass, covering her grave. "There was a dance last night," he says. "Jay took Amanda." He smiles, knowing exactly how Lucy would react. "I'd been planning on asking you, but..." He picks up a stone and turns it over in his hand. The bottom is wet and looks like shiny onyx, but the top is dry and almost white in the light. It's strange how water can make a simple rock look like a gem on one side and like a slab of concrete on the other, just like the lake. "This is my first time on this side of the cemetery, and yeah, it's creepy. You know my parents are right over there?" "How weird is that?" "I had a family plot already waiting for me when they buried you." Colin shakes his head, and a chill makes its way beneath the layers of his clothes. They weren't kidding about cemeteries being creepy. You'd think they'd feel full of ghosts and death, but they just feel empty. That's the weirdest part. To be in a place that feels completely hollow and deserted. Why would anyone stick around here? What's there to see? No wonder you decided to come back on a trail with trees and water and... He trails off again, eyes lifting to the ominous white sky. There's a patch right above where the clouds have drifted apart, and it seems like a vortex where he can imagine souls are sucked up and away. Is it strange that I'm glad I was the one who saw him? I mean, I don't remember any of it, and I know this sounds all kinds of wrong, but I like that I saw him take you. I want to feel like him getting caught that night made a difference. The universe owes you, Lucy. You deserve to come back. He clears his throat, taking a much-needed breath to soothe the knot in his stomach. So I realize I'm talking to myself. You're not here, in the dust and the grass and the air, because if you were, you would have figured out how to create a body from all of that. I know where you are, though. Is it weird that I think these people in this cemetery are really gone, but can't accept that you are? Like, I've never said a word at my mom's grave because what's the point? She left a long time ago. You know, I hardly remember her face. He shrugs, tossing the rock to the ground. But not you. I remember every one of your smiles, and I spent probably a half hour last night trying to picture the expression you make when you're braiding your hair. I know how you grip a pencil, and that you cross your right leg over your left and almost never the other way around. And I know where you are, Lucy. I've never felt like anyone was waiting for me before, not my sister or my mom or my dad. It's only ever been you. He stares down at the dead grass near his legs and picks out a single blade. The root is tender and green, even if the exposed section is dried and yellow. Beneath the ground, it was still alive. I've spent the last few weeks trying to figure out how this happened, and I think I understand it now. I shouldn't be here. Dot's told me that enough times, joked that I have 9 lives, but I never thought about it that much, you know? I should have died with my family, and at least a dozen times after that. Even the quarry didn't scare me. When I fell and broke my arm, for the first time ever, I thought, that's it. This is the end. But it wasn't. You'd been watching me, waiting, and I think that thought was enough to finally bring you here. If it wasn't over for me, it's not over for you either. We're connected in a way that no one else is. I didn't let the man who killed you get away with murder, and you came back because you knew how much I'd lost. He drops the blade of grass and runs his hand over the other yellowed blades, still firmly rooted in the soil. I guess what I'm saying is that I hope you're waiting for me, Lucy, because this time I'm taking you through the gate, not the other way around.
Chapter 35. Her. Lucy takes a breath and blows it out, her eyes opening to the bright yellow glare of the infirmary hallway. No voices come from any of the rooms, and panic seizes her immediately. She's disappeared again. How long has it been? She stands, moving silently toward the closest doorway. When she peeks in the room, she finds Colin asleep on his side. Her relief is a warm, tangible thing. A tangle of tubes dives down underneath the blankets, and only a tuft of hair is visible outside the bundle. She feels like she can finally breathe again, knowing he's well enough to be here and no longer at the hospital. Instead of waking him with her cool skin, she sits near his bed and waits. She promises not to go into the lake again. She promises not to let Colin go in either. It's okay, she tells herself. This is what she wanted, for Colin to be safe above everything else. She feels stronger with every deep breath, as if the air simply bypasses her lungs and builds into her cell by cell. Excuse me? The words and voice don't mix. It sounds like courtesy dripping acid. Lucy looks up to meet the familiar deep brown eyes of Maggie. She can't imagine the nurse is particularly thrilled to find her here, but the look on her face seems downright angry. "What the hell are you doing?" she asks in a hiss, glancing at the bed. Waiting for him to wake up. Maggie looks to Colin's huddled figure and then back at Lucy as if she were sitting naked in the chair. "Girl, are you out of your mind? That's not Colin." The chair clatters backward as Lucy stands. "Where is he? I left while he was in the hospital but woke up here. I thought—" "Left?" the nurse asks in an angry hiss, pulling Lucy toward the door. "As in stepping out for a moment? As in getting some fresh air? Lucy, Colin left that hospital 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks? She asks, a lead ball of fear crashing through her insides. Maggie nods and moves to pick up the chart at the foot of the stranger's bed. Her words click into place in Lucy's head. "What day is it?" "It's a Sunday, and he was just here.
Came by looking for help finding you. That boy had a look on his face like he was going to search under every rock if he had to. When she shakes her head, Lucy can tell she thinks his effort is wasted. As if that'd matter. I told him this would happen, that you'd leave without a trace and he'd be left here, trying to pick up the pieces. Your kind ain't good for nothing but heartbreak. Don't want us safe and happy. No, you want us on the edge and broken, taking us somewhere we ain't got no business going. Let's hope he's smarter than I was. Maggie walks out of the room and toward a back office. How long ago? Lucy asks, following a wave of anger building deep inside her chest. I have things to do, she says over her shoulder, if you'll excuse me. This time it's Lucy who reaches out, grabbing Maggie's arm to stop her. The woman's eyes widen, and Lucy can tell right away that something is different. Maggie looks from where Lucy grips her, knuckles white, skin solid and warm, up to meet her gaze. You leave that boy alone. There's anger in her voice, but more than that, there's fear. Red clouds the edges of Lucy's vision, and the air moves in waves around the room. Maggie gasps, reaching up just as a small trickle of blood begins to run from her nose. How long ago? Lucy shouts, startling herself. Maggie pulls herself free, looking frightened and disoriented. About a half hour, she says, staggering on her feet. Just as quickly as the rage appeared, it's gone, and Lucy looks down at her own hands, terrified. She reaches toward Maggie. I'm sorry, she begins, wanting to help. I don't know. Get away from me, Maggie says, staggering backward before crumpling to the floor. The color has fled from beneath her dark skin, and the bleeding has increased, now running in scarlet rivulets down the front of her teal uniform. She knocks over a small metal table as she falls, sending it and the items on top tumbling loudly to the floor. It's loud enough to get the attention of the woman in the hallway. She's wearing her coat and gloves as if she'd just walked in the door. No, Lucy says, shrinking back into the shadows and watching as the woman fumbles with her cell phone while trying to help Maggie, who's lying in a growing puddle of blood. Nobody even notices Lucy as she stumbles from the room, tripping over a chair in the hallway and sending it skittering across the linoleum. What's happening? What they say about riding a bike is true. With no money for a cab or a phone call, Lucy steals a bike from outside the infirmary and has no problem remembering how to balance and take off. As she crosses the quad, she realizes she doesn't even know Colin's cell number. Her hands shake violently where she grips the handlebars, too afraid for a second glance behind her to even consider what just happened. She has to get to Colin. Lucy feels almost winded by the time she reaches the dorm. 2 state police cars are parked in the lot, and she sees Dot's car a few spots down, but Lucy doesn't risk going to the kitchen to find her to ask if she's seen him. Continuing on, she notices the sidewalks seem busier than usual. Students stand together, trading hushed but anxious voices, and Lucy moves around them, leaning the bike against the side of Ethan Hall. She freezes when she spots the campus security guard standing at the door and talking to a teacher she recognizes. It seems impossible, but her guilty mind races and she can't help wondering if he's looking for her. Lucy feels so alive right now, like every cell is pulsing with a heartbeat of its own, that she worries that there's no way she could hope to sneak by. She feels like an illuminated billboard. A group of chattering girls approaches the entrance. They move like a school of fish, lost in a torrent of whispered conversations. Lucy tucks herself near the back and must manage to look like she belongs, because soon she's through the door and racing up the stairs, praying that Colin is in his room. She can hear the music pulsing before she's even reached the landing. She runs down the hall, and not waiting to knock, bursts through the door. Jay is sitting at his computer, his head in his hands. I heard, he says with gentle gravity. Lucy pulls up short, searching the small room for Colin. What? He died last night. She shakes her head, confused. Who died last night? Your friend Alex. Lucy no longer has legs. They buckle beneath her, and she sits on a pile of laundry as the world starts to spin too fast for her to hold on to any single point. What? He collapsed last night. He was never in remission. He just didn't tell anyone.
Jay points to his monitor, to the news article he was reading as she came in, but she's crawling to the door as dread and sickness and terror wash over her. Fear is freezing her limbs, because if Jay is here and Colin is not... Lucy looks down at her arms. She is so solid she can see her skin roll firmly between her fingers as she pinches herself.
My presence is fighting the cancer, helping make him healthy again, and I feel stronger every day. Kids like you, they always take someone with them. Try not to, Lucy. Where's Colin?
Jay asks, looking behind her.
I'm not sure he knows yet, but maybe because he's been camped out at Joe's and...
Jay, I think Colin went to the lake to find me. Jay begins throwing supplies in a bag, shouting for Lucy to wait just a second to let him call 911, but she can't. Every particle of her body propels her out the door and down the stairs, sprinting to where she knows Colin is. Her chest burns from trudging through the snow at this pace, and looking down as she runs, she sees two sets of footprints converging, Colin's and hers, equally deep. The ice groans in warning beneath her weight, and she slips for the first time, cracking her solid hip on the surface. Closer, closer. Lucy hates how strong she feels. The only thing keeping her going is that she's still here. If Colin died, she would vanish, right? I'm almost there. Please don't go looking for me. I'm here. At the edge of the ice lays a pile of clothes. Jeans, boots, his favorite blue hoodie. In the water there are no bubbles, no ripples, no movement, just blue water that slips into darkness. Her scream carries through the trees and echoes off the surface of the water. The force of her anguish tears her in two and pulls her down to the brittle, thinning ice. Every piece finally fits. I'm no guardian. I'm a lure. She feels the streak of hot tears falling down her cheeks, the first one she's cried since waking. In the distance, sirens fill the air, the sound ringing in the empty silence of the frozen lake. Closer, closer. As she stares at the pile of clothes, they become covered with fluffy flakes of snow. When she looks to the sky, she finds only brilliant blue above. Holding her hands up in front of her, Lucy watches her skin disintegrate into snow and ash and air. She watches as she's blown into the wind. Epilogue. It wasn't as simple as slipping into the blackness and finding him there waiting. She expected it to be simple. She moved with the same instinct as before, but instead, she was back in her mirror world, alone and more aware this time. She'd never been lonely there before, because she'd needed only to look out into the other sky and see him. But when she returned alone, she remembered every minute with Colin, every smile, every sensation of him. Time was her sole begrudging partner. It twisted and slept, lingered interminably, and then would burst past her in the few moments Lucy let herself enjoy her lush memories of togetherness. Minutes passed differently under the lake than they did above it. A minute here could be a second or a year to anything on Earth. How long would it take him to get here? How long had it been? Every time the strange sun rose, she thought, today is the day we'll be back together. Every day she walked to the gate, but the longing to walk through was gone, like it had drifted off with her body into the snow. And then everything changed. It was a different sort of morning, cold like the first day he went into the lake, with air so sharp you hesitate before taking it into your lungs, even if it gives you your shape and its coldest elements are your only essence. She had a good feeling that morning, one she couldn't explain. It was weather that would make Colin's eyes flame golden, and she would know he was thinking about falling into the water, about touching her with the same hands and same lips and same skin. The trail was deserted, of course. Downy snow buried the dirt and grass. Apples that hung ripe and round the day before lay like glittering rubies in the snow. And then he was there. His eyes were full of confusion. He looked at his arms, at the apples in the snow, at the ice-blue sky and at the path in front of him. When he saw Lucy, his face relaxed, and he blinked once and then twice for her, the second one bringing with it a smile.
Sublime was written by Christina Lauren and read by Elizabeth Louise and Cal Wembley. Editing and post-production by Common Mode. Paul Fowley, technical director. The associate producer was Louisa Solomon. The mix engineer was Jessica Escalona. This has been a presentation of Simon & Schuster Audio. Sublime is available in print from Simon & Schuster Books for young readers.